Chapter 51. Ivan raised the autumn water in his hand. Invisible waves were floating endlessly. He chopped forward, and the waves wrapped around the blade surged out in an instant, turning into a torrent, and actually went straight through the woods in front, raising a cloud of dust. Ivan nodded slightly with satisfaction. His attainment in domineering power has reached the level of Colonel Kobe. Just simply emitting domineering power has such an effect. If it is combined with the vacuum wave, the power is probably considerable. It can also injure natural ability users remotely, and it will never be as embarrassing as the previous battle with Crocodile. Is this the flowing armed color? Moria was greatly surprised. The power is really amazing. If the hardened armament haki is armor, then the flowing armament haki is a cannonball. Ivan said firmly. The hardened armament haki is just to strengthen the body, and then rely on the body's strength to attack. The flowing armament haki itself has a strong attack power. When combined with its own attack, it is more than just 1 + 1 greater than 2. The flowing armament haki is already like this, and the higher level internal destruction armament haki is almost equivalent to an armor-piercing projectile. In terms of pure power, it may not be much stronger, but it has a strong armor-piercing and defense-breaking effect. As for the domineering haki entanglement, it is probably equivalent to a missile, right? The lower limit is too high. That's really good. Moria looked at it with envy. It seems that I have to continue to strengthen my training. Ivan said that if you want to fight Kaido, you will never win without mastering advanced domineering. Even his dragon scales can't be penetrated. Then you have to work harder. Ivan chuckled. Moria's current domineering aura is not strong, but it should be strong in his peak period. When he returns to his peak, it will not be difficult for him to master the flowing domineering aura. He. You wait and see. Marijoa was full of confidence in himself. After all, who in this world is not full of confidence in the strong? Without such a heart, it is impossible to become a strong man. A few more days passed, and the terrifying three-masted sailing ship arrived outside an island. The voyage in the New World was very smooth, and neither the storm nor the raging waves could shake the ship at all. Moreover, Marijoa still had the permanent pointer left when he ventured into the New World, so he could accurately reach the island. But it didn't work afterwards. Marijoa only had this one permanent pointer. So, it's time to say goodbye. Standing on the high wall at the edge of the ship, Ivan looked at the island in the distance that was restless because of the arrival of the ship, and said calmly. Are we going to the Giant Kingdom next? Marijoa stood beside him and asked with his head down. Ivan nodded slightly. Don't ask about the details, it's not good for you. He. Really? That makes people even more curious. Moria laughed, but since you said so, then okay. Anyway, take care, Ivan. The same goes for you. Don't die before you act. Ivan said calmly. He. Later, on the island. Ivan and his partner, wearing cloaks to cover their appearance, walked out of a shop. There is no Giant Kingdom perpetual pointer for sale. Robin said unwillingly. It's not something that is hard to understand. Ivan said calmly, there aren't many people who can land in the Giant Kingdom and leave intact. Besides, who knows how long it will take for the pointer to store the magnetic force of the Giant Kingdom. What should we do? Robin became anxious for once. How on earth are we going to get there? They were already very close to the Giant Kingdom. O'Hara's legacy, childhood friends, everything was waiting for her. How could she stop here? Don't worry. Ivan smiled, there will always be someone who knows how to get there. Robin, do you remember that I asked the store owner where we are now? Kashiko Island is located in the middle of the New World. Robin answered immediately. Her memory is not so good as to remember everything she sees, but it is almost the same. There is one more point. Ivan said, there is another key point. One more point. Robin frowned slightly, then she immediately reacted, you mean, the nearby Navy G-14 base? Indeed, the Navy certainly has pointers to most important countries. There are two types of naval branches. One is the naval bases located in the 4 seas. The branch code is usually a 3-digit number. The officers of this branch are 3 levels lower than the officers of the same level in the Grand Line in terms of rank and strength. One is the Grand Line branch, which is generally referred to as the G series. For example, the G1 base, which will become the new headquarters of the Navy in the future, is the most important one in this series of bases. It is worth mentioning that even if the 4 emperors are formed in the future and the 4 emperors rule the new world, the Navy's control over the new world will be much greater than ordinary people think. They G-series bases have been built deep into the new world. And near this island is a G-series base, the G-14 base. Ivan remembered that this base also appeared in the original work, and the base commander was a very tall and beautiful vice admiral. But at the current stage, the base commander of that base is someone else. And it's an acquaintance. But Ivan, Robin said solemnly, the commander of that base is Vice Admiral Sakaski, the Navy's alternate admiral. She will never forget the gunfire that night. Besides Aokiji, the one who left an indelible impression on her was Akina Sakaski, who ordered the bombardment of the refugee ship. That man is not an ordinary vice admiral. He is the Navy's alternate admiral, and his strength is probably only a hair's breadth away from that of a real Navy admiral. Is there any other way now? Ivan asked, or should we wait here until a ship to the giant kingdom arrives? Robin hesitated. Don't worry, we are just going to steal the pointer, there is no need to confront Akainu head-on. Ivan said comfortingly, do you still doubt my ability to sneak in? Robin thought so too. As for Ivan's ninjas who can sneak into the shadows, is there any place in the world that he can't sneak into successfully? As long as he is a little careful, there should be no problem, right? Robin thought. Okay, she said solemnly, let's do it. Chapter 52. G-14 Base of the Navy Headquarters. As one of the Navy's bases that goes deepest into the New World, G-14 Base is actually the Navy's front line. As the tide of the Great Pirate Era intensifies, there is no doubt that this base is the bridgehead against the powerful pirates of the New World. The tough tactics of the alternate Admiral Sakaski, who was transferred in the past 2 years, added a bit of iron-blooded atmosphere to this base. Among the many naval bases in the New World, most of them adhere to the policy of maintaining nearby public security and not actively attacking the outside world. Only the warships of this G-14 base cruise on the nearby sea all year round to attack passing pirates. Today should have been the most ordinary day for this base, but the arrival of 2 secret intruders made the G-14 base destined to be not too peaceful on this day. In the soldiers' dormitory behind the base building, the door of a room was suddenly pushed open. A boy in a white Navy uniform stepped out. He wore a Navy cap on his head, and the white sailor suit on him was a perfect match, setting off his slender and tall figure very well, and exuding a spirit of strength. He also had a standard Navy saber on his waist. What are you still hesitating about? The boy shouted into the room, someone will be here soon. Is this really okay? A girl wearing a sailor suit came out of the room. She also had a Navy hat on her head. She held down the brim of the hat with one hand and carried a gun with the other hand. She looked quite shy. We are all wanted by the Navy. Would we really not be discovered if we sneak in so brazenly? The 2 people who sneaked in were of course Ivan and Robin. They sneaked into a Navy dormitory using the ghost ninja. They captured 2 Marines and tortured them for information. They changed into Marine uniforms and prepared to sneak into the base in a dignified manner. No problem. Ivan said nonchalantly, your wanted poster was issued 8 years ago, and no one in this base knows you. Until now, the photo on Robin's wanted poster still shows the little girl from 8 years ago, and she doesn't match the mature girl now. As for me, Ivan snorted, my hair has grown a little longer recently. He pulled down the hair on his forehead, and the length just covered his eyes. How is it? Robin took a deep breath, as long as you are happy. Let's go. Ivan stepped forward, it's a pity that the 2 Marines don't know where the compass and the chart are stored. It is said that it is a confidential matter, and only senior officers at the base have the right to know. Come to think of it, in this chaotic new world, we can only navigate with the help of compasses, and a compass that can point out the direction is of course a very important thing. The goal is to find a senior officer. Ivan said, and then kidnap him and ask him where the pointer is. It is of course more convenient to use the ghost ninja to find the officers. But it is also easy to be exposed if these guys wander around in the base. After all, with their intelligence, all they can do is follow Ivan's orders and do some simple improvisations. Robin was very worried about attracting Akainu's attention, and she strongly demanded a safer method. So, this is what it is now. Ivan and the other man walked out of the Navy dormitory calmly, passing many Navy soldiers along the way. Robin was quite nervous, fearing that he would be recognized. But fortunately, it should be said that Ivan's confidence is not unreasonable. All the Navy are confident about them. There was no doubt at all. At most, the young Marines could not help but secretly look at Robin twice more because of her beauty. However, that was all. There was no shortage of young and beautiful female Marines in the base. The Marines would at most be stunning and would not do anything more rude. They were professional soldiers, not hooligans. Robin was slightly relieved only then. Ivan's seemingly audacious plan seemed unexpectedly feasible. After all, there were more than 10,000 soldiers stationed in this base. How could anyone tell at a glance that the two of them were outsiders? The two walked along the wide road into the towering base building. Be careful here. Robin stepped forward, walked side by side with Ivan, and whispered in his ear. If you run around here, you will definitely be discovered. Ivan just smiled, follow me. He went straight in a certain direction. Robin was so angry that her teeth itched. This guy didn't listen to anyone at all. But she could only follow him silently. Then she found that many Marines were moving in the same direction as them. Not long after, they came to a very spacious hall. Or it should not be called a hall, but a cafeteria. Soldiers lined up in long queues in front of the windows, holding plates in their hands waiting for meals. The wider space was occupied by dining tables, and a large number of naval soldiers sat around the tables to eat. Ivan's observation haki was as good at observation as radar, and he easily found this place. Robin suddenly realized, you mean, the officers will definitely come to the restaurant to eat, and we can take the opportunity to keep an eye on them. I mean. Ivan walked aside and picked up a plate, have lunch first. Robin clenched his fists. It must be said that the food for the Marines at the base was not bad. Ivan unceremoniously filled a plate with food and found an empty table. With a clatter, Robin, with a stern face, also sat opposite Ivan with food and began to eat in silence. The Marines around him didn't take it seriously, probably thinking that it was a quarrel between a boyfriend and girlfriend. Marines are also human beings, and of course they can live with emotions. Vice Admiral Sakaski would not say anything about it. Don't worry. Ivan said as he ate heartily, did you notice? There are soldiers in the back kitchen delivering meals. Robin raised her eyelids slightly and looked around calmly. She immediately found that there were indeed several soldiers carefully pushing the dining cart out of the cafeteria from the back kitchen. She knew in her heart that there must be officers coming to the cafeteria to eat, but they were not necessarily senior officers. However, someone delivering meals was definitely not an ordinary officer. I've asked the ninja to follow him. Ivan said with a smile, if we ask them one by one, we should be able to find out the answer, right? Robin hesitated. So, let's just get ready to mess around. Anyway, let's eat first. Ivan said with a smile, you may not have time to eat later. Robin agreed. Chapter 53. Tarantino is a Navy. A Rear Admiral of the Navy Headquarters, currently the Deputy Commander of the Navy G-14 base. He is 55 years old this year, at the tail end of his prime, and has always been begging for further progress. He doesn't expect to be a general, but at least he can retire with the rank of Vice Admiral. General Tarantino often thinks so. So when Vice Admiral Sakaski was transferred here, he was quite happy. Everyone knows that among the three candidate admirals of the headquarters, Vice Admiral Sakaski is an absolute hawk, and has always advocated the most thorough and fierce means to eliminate all criminals. Following behind him, there will definitely be no shortage of military merits. This is indeed the case. During the period when Vice Admiral Sakaski was transferred to this base, the base navy has attacked everywhere and eliminated as many as 6 powerful pirate groups with bounties of over 100 million. If this continues, in another 2 years, he should be promoted to Vice Admiral, right? Mr. Major General thought so. But if there is anything bad about Vice Admiral Sakaski's future, it is that many of the entertainments he used to do are now not dared to be carried out. The bad-tempered Vice Admiral not only hated pirates, but also showed no mercy to criminals within the Navy. General Tarantino had personally witnessed several times Vice Admiral Sakaski executing criminal Navy soldiers. Tarantino never wanted to experience the scene of the soldiers screaming and being swallowed by the magma. Therefore, even though many beautiful Navy soldiers had come to the base in the past 2 years, he did not dare to take any action. Just bear with it. When you become a Vice Admiral, you will be qualified to take charge of a G-series base alone. When Vice Admiral Sakaski is promoted to Admiral, no one will be able to restrain you. Mr. Major General always comforted himself in this way. Mr. Major General was not very satisfied with today's lunch. He still missed the beautiful cooks that he had specially equipped before Vice Admiral Sakaski came. But for the sake of power, he could tolerate this dissatisfaction. After lunch, Mr. Major General began to deal with documents. Although the affairs were complicated, Tarantino unexpectedly enjoyed it. Because for him, every annotation on the document was a manifestation of his power. Is there anything more fascinating than being able to control the fate of a group of people with just a stroke of a pen? Even the youngest and most beautiful female Navy officer can't do it. Excuse me, may I bother you for a moment? A calm voice came from the side. Tarantino frowned instantly. It sounded like a very young voice. Is it a new Navy? Just break into his office without permission? Tarantino looked up and saw two young men standing in front of his desk. One was a young man with long hair covering his eyes and his face could not be seen clearly. The other one the Major General's eyes lit up instantly. What a bright and beautiful girl, when did such an outstanding female Marine come to the base? He was about to speak. Suddenly he realized something else. Was the door of the office opened again? He obviously didn't notice any movement. How did these two people get in? The original scolding was about to turn into a stunned question. However, at this moment, Tarantino's eyes flashed with golden light, and a hand grabbed his head directly and pressed him onto the table. Immediately, a long knife was inserted into the table next to his neck, and Tarantino watched the long knife turn black little by little. I have a question for you, so can you please keep quiet first? The boy's voice came into his ears. Tarantino was confused for a moment. What is going on now? Are the Marines below committing insubordination? It was not until a few seconds later that Tarantino realized that it was an invader. Someone invaded the G-14 base and even pressed him, the deputy base commander, on the table with a knife next to his neck. Crazy. Are these two guys crazy? Don't they know that this base is guarded by Vice Admiral Sakaski and is one of the best iron fortresses in the New World? Tarantino subconsciously wanted to struggle, but he found that the boy's hand was like a sea stone, and he couldn't shake it at all. Oh? You still want to resist? In fact, this subconscious struggle angered the boy. The sharp blade just brushed against Tarantino's neck, and his neck was instantly cut by the domineering blade, and blood immediately flowed down. Wait, wait, wait! Got it, I got it! Tarantino immediately whispered, I'll cooperate, just ask any questions you have, I'll tell you everything I know. Tarantino knew that the most terrifying thing in the world was these young people. They didn't care about anything, just did whatever they wanted based on passion and impulse. It was impossible to talk about any interest relationship with them. When you can't resist, you can only choose to obey them. Tarantino didn't want to die yet, he hasn't even become a lieutenant general yet. Great! Ivan raised his lips, I knew it was impossible that all officers would be so fearless and would never cooperate. Oops! Tarantino's heart was sinking. So, he had already found several officers, but in the end, he was the only one who gave in? If Lieutenant General Sakaski knew about this, he would definitely be executed by lava. But he couldn't care less now. Where are all the pointers and charts of this base stored? Ivan asked. Of course, I couldn't just ask where the pointers of the giant kingdom were. Ivan was not that stupid. In the chart room, that is the confidential place of the base, and only senior officers know where it is. Tarantino did not hesitate. If it was just asking such questions, there would be no problem. But it's crazy. Just for the charts and pointers, you dare to break into this naval base? I feel really underestimated. Thinking so in my heart, Tarantino answered without hesitation, do you need me to take you there? Please rest assured, I will never resist. Robin frowned slightly. It's really disgusting. Compared with the naval officers just now, it's a world of difference. Sure enough, there are many such termites in the Navy. Coincidentally, unlike Robin, Ivan thinks that the more such termites, the better. After all, the fewer running dogs who do practical things for the celestial dragons, the less harm they cause to the world. It's a very simple truth. If the Navy were all scum termites, maybe this world would have ushered in the real dawn long ago. No need. Ivan raised his lips, you just need to tell me which room the room is on the ground floor of this building from left to right. Tarantino's thoughts flashed. Such a strange request, plus they appeared silently. So, what special method of movement did these two people master? Well, I'll tell you right away. Tarantino didn't hesitate, and told everything he knew like a bamboo tube pouring beans. Then, let's go. Ivan led Robin and the Major General into the shadows, and soon emerged from a room as the Major General said. This was a rather spacious room, with rows of safes inside. There were words on each safe door. Ivan looked carefully and found that most of them were the names of islands or countries. That's it. The pointers collected by the Navy. Ivan. At this time, Robin suddenly tugged at Ivan's sleeve in panic. Look. She raised her hand and pointed to a corner of the ceiling. Ivan looked in the direction of her finger and saw a den mushy staring at them with its eyes wide open. Oh. Chapter 54. In a room at the base, a group of Navy soldiers were staring at a monitoring screen. Suddenly, they found something wrong. What's going on? Is that the chart room? How did they get in? Wait, that's Major General Tarantino. He's being held hostage. Intruders. Intruders. Report to Vice Admiral Sakaski immediately. The sharp alarm sounded throughout the base almost instantly. You bastard! Robin rarely got angry, and crossed his hands in front of his chest. Tarantino's chest grew 2 hands, grabbed his throat and suddenly exerted force. This ability. You are Nicole Robin. It's a pity that Robin's power is too weak to even tickle Tarantino, and this man was able to guess her identity in astonishment. Since this woman is Nicole Robin. Then. Tarantino looked at Ivan in astonishment. This young man must be the guy who showed his skills in the West Sea. He swept through the 8 navy armies of the Flower Kingdom in one breath, and even killed the troublesome guy Qing Jiao. After that, he lawlessly killed the king of the Flower Kingdom. That country is still in chaos now. Wait. 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 Tarantino said hurriedly, I'm just trying to protect myself. If you guys come and go quietly, I'll definitely be killed by you. You don't have to worry now. With me as a hostage and your abilities, you will definitely be able to escape easily. So, I just hope you can spare me. Ivan. Robin looked at Ivan. Ivan was still calm and composed. He just summoned the Shadow Ninja and started moving things. Although the target was the pointer of the Giant Kingdom, it would be a pleasant surprise if he could get the pointers of most major countries in the world. Ivan would not refuse. Give me all the pointers first. Ivan turned back suddenly, that's fast enough. He immediately summoned a ninja, who handed him a black sheathed knife, then came to Robin, grabbed Robin's shoulders and led her into the shadows. Ivan. Robin immediately understood what was going on, and she exclaimed, let's go together. Be obedient. Ivan took out the Kyushui handed over by the ninja, we can't go together now. Boom. The door of the room exploded directly, and a huge magma bomb came towards them. Major General Tarantino, who was held in Ivan's hand, looked very surprised. It's Lieutenant General Sakaski. Ivan raised his hand, and a bolt of lightning leaped up from his arm, transforming into a huge spear of lightning, which directly pierced through the blasting lava and headed outside. Hey! Thunder and lightning! Outside the door, amidst the loud noise, a surprised voice sounded. Ivan. Robin, with only his head left, looked at Ivan's back unwillingly. This bastard always does his own thing and never listens to others. You should know this, right? If you die, I have to die in there too. Robin left this sentence at last. She had completely disappeared into the shadows. Ivan chuckled and looked back. The ninjas were making rapid progress and only a few safes were left. Invaders. Outside the gate, a man with a terrifying heat radiating from his body walked in like the sun. It was hard to tell what he was wearing. Red lava was flowing on his body, and every time he took a step, he left a deep footprint on the ground. Damn you, you scum, you didn't take me seriously at all. How dare you mess around here? Is there a minute's interval? Ivan frowned slightly, tilted his head slightly, and looked at the back of the person who came. There were holes burned through his back. Did he break through all the obstacles along the way? No wonder it was so fast. Lieutenant General Sakaski. Tarantino's face was filled with fear. The oncoming heat almost set him on fire. Useless things. The man who seemed to be the incarnation of magma lowered his head and glanced at Tarantino, snorting coldly, are you the one who brought them here? This guy is very cooperative. I just put a knife on his neck and he confessed everything. Ivan said lightly, compared with the previous officers, it is a world of difference. Tarantino turned pale as paper in an instant, and hurriedly explained with gestures, Lieutenant General Sakaski, I was coerced by them. Yes, that's right, this guy is the kid who made a big fuss in the West Sea. Nico Robin is with him. Now he has been sent into the shadows. He has some ability to travel through the shadows. The man codenamed Akainu didn't react, he just raised his fist, and magma was flowing down from his right fist, corroding the ground and making dents when it dripped onto the ground. Boy, do you want to surrender yourself, or do you want me to do it myself? Ivan tilted his head slightly. On one side, the ghost ninjas had moved all the pointers and C charts into the shadows. In other words, now they only need to distance themselves and they can retreat calmly. But the problem is how to distance themselves from this guy. How are you going to do it? Ivan said calmly. Then die. Almost mercilessly, Akainu ejected, his right arm gushing out like a volcanic eruption, and the heavy punch of magma arrived in an instant. Ivan did not dare to neglect it either, and lightning jumped up on his body, turning into lightning and jumping back. He was crazy to fight Akainu in close combat. At the same time, Tarantino, who was held in his hand, was thrown towards Akainu by him. So, the magma fist that was originally bombarded towards Ivan became bigger and bigger in Tarantino's eyes. Vice Admiral Sakaski! Tarantino screamed. Akainu hesitated for a moment. But it was only a moment. You deserve to die too. Accompanied by a merciless roar, the lava fist directly pierced through Tarantino's chest. Ivan seized this moment, and the long sword on Ivan's waist suddenly came out of the sheath. Wind and lightning condensed on the blade at the same time, and there was an invisible wave entwined on the matching blade. Dragon Flash! The huge golden slash instantly cut Tarantino's body in half, and the arc of light that spread out cut the entire room, and it seemed that even the air was distorted. It was not over yet, and the magnificent vacuum wave spread out mightily. Not to mention this room, the entire base building was shocked. The magnificent wave penetrated the building in the next moment and rushed into the distance. Tarantino was broken into two pieces, and his body with a pierced chest fell to the ground. Ugh! With a muffled groan, Akainu took 2 steps back. He lowered his head in surprise. His red suit was torn on his chest, and there was a deep scratch on his muscular chest. This guy was careless. Ivan thought. This level of haki. Akainu's face was solemn. Tarantino blocked his eyes, and by the time he realized that the kid's flying slash had haki attached to it and prepared to defend himself, it was too late. Flowing armament haki. This kid actually possessed this level of haki. At your age, it's hard to imagine. Akainu's voice became colder and colder, and his arms turned into magma at the same time, and thick smoke spread in the room. But boy, if you don't follow the right path, you have no value at all. Righteous path. Ivan sneered. Are you referring to the Navy? That's really funny. However, even if Akainu is not as strong as he will be 12 years later, the gap is definitely not that big. This guy is undoubtedly one of the most terrifying monsters on the sea. To fight him, you must not hold back. So. Ivan took a deep breath. His body was instantly covered with blue ribs, and then continued to swell. Covered with flesh and outer clothes, he directly entered the second stage. Even this is not over, Ivan's body suddenly began to rise, Susanoo actually grew legs. Turned into a complete human form. The ceiling was directly knocked through, and a huge blue giant emerged from the top of the building, overlooking this huge naval base. Chapter 55. What is this thing? Akainu looked up at the giant in front of him in astonishment. It was indeed a giant, with a height of nearly 30 meters, which was taller than the average giant. It was blue all over, and wore a coat of the same color. The most noteworthy thing was that it had 4 arms. Devil fruit ability? But didn't Tarantino say that this guy's ability was to travel through shadows? Moreover, he had just demonstrated the ability to control lightning. What's going on? Below, in the square outside the building, the Marines were also stunned. What is that? Are the giants invading? They thought so. In the brain of the humanoid Susanoo, Ivan's breathing became rapid. Susanoo has evolved again on the basis of the second form and has grown legs. Strictly speaking, this form is the same as the armored Susanoo, both of which have evolved on the basis of the second stage, and both belong to the third stage. The armored Susanoo is wearing the Karasu Tengu armor, which greatly improves the defense and has exclusive weapons. This form has grown legs, and at the same time, it has completely entered the body of Susanoo, greatly increasing its dexterity. At the same time, without the restraint of the armor, the power that can be exerted is also stronger. Like the armored Susanoo, Susanoo in this posture is also under a huge load. This feeling is like a 100-meter sprint when I was an ordinary person in my previous life, and my physical strength is rapidly draining. Two long swords flashing with lightning appeared in the hands of the front on the left and right sides of the Susanoo giant. This form can also use exclusive weapons. At the same time, the two hands behind were raised high above the head and clasped together. Who cares if you are? Go to hell. On the top of the building, which was already broken by the existence of Susanoo, Akainu also smashed the ceiling and jumped up, like the volcanic ash splashed out when a volcano erupted, wrapped in billowing black smoke and rushed straight to Susanoo's face. Hell dog! With the terrifying explosive force of the volcano as a driving force, the lava fist penetrated through. This was a terrifying move that even knocked off half of Whitebeard's face. Dragon Flash! Yvonne shouted in a low voice. The golden lightning jumped up from Susanoo's body, and then the long sword flashing with lightning instantly turned black, and it slashed from bottom to top, slashing towards Akainu. Akainu did not hesitate, and punched the huge blade that slashed at him. In an instant, there was a thunderous explosion, and on the top of the building, black lightning radiated everywhere. The shock wave caused by the collision of the fist and the giant sword turned into a strong wind that blew down, blowing the Navy soldiers on the square and even making some of them unstable. Ugh! With a muffled groan, Akainu flew backwards like a cannonball. But at the same time, the huge Susanoo also staggered backwards and almost fell from the building. Even the black blade was broken, and half of the blade flew in the air and gradually turned into energy and dissipated. What a terrifying power! Yvonne sighed in his heart. Even with the armed color with a flowing level, the blade was still broken. It is worthy of being the future admiral of the navy. Akainu, who stabilized his body immediately before flying far, was also stunned. This brat! Amazing strength! Amazing sword skills! Amazing domineering! The combination of the three almost injured him again. So unscrupulous, and so gifted. Akainu's eyes were fierce, and the magma behind him gushed out, stepping on the air, crossing the sky like a heavy bomber. On Ivan's side, Susanoo stabilized his body, and the pair of clasped arms opened at this time, and a string of black jade flashing with lightning formed in his palms. Yasaka Megatama! This string of 6 Megatama was thrown directly and flew towards Akainu in mid-air. Akainu looked up, and the spinning Megatama flying towards him made his pupils shrink slightly. Big fire! Subconsciously, he threw out a huge magma fist that looked like a small mountain. At the moment when the Megatama collided with the magma, the sky was completely illuminated. Blue, black and golden light shone in the sky at the same time, and the huge fireball made the whole world seem to lose its color. The base building was collapsing, and the square below was shaking. But the next second, Yvonne saw that in the huge fireball, a figure like the incarnation of the god of fire rushed out, billowing thick smoke, to escort him. Ivan's eyes condensed, and the broken blade in Susanoo's hand was instantly repaired, and the other two arms also held a thunder sword. Dragon Flash! The 4 arms swung their swords at the same time, and 4 powerful vacuum waves gathered together, covering the sky like a storm. Akainu's face was slightly solemn. This kid's strength was simply too strong. Even he didn't dare to be careless. His fists instantly turned black, and invisible waves entangled them. The 2 arms completely turned into magma, constantly gushing out and accumulating power. Hey! Hell dog! Akainu roared. He swung his fists and smashed an oncoming vacuum wave with one punch. The extremely terrifying explosive power coupled with the strong domineering made his iron fist indestructible. He just swung his fist quickly and easily destroyed the vacuum waves sent by Yvonne. It really is a hell dog machine gun, right? Yvonne witnessed the old joke of the form come true, although he didn't think it was funny. Relying solely on vacuum waves, even the 3rd stage Susanoo can't stop him? Close combat can probably support Susanoo's strength and weapon advantages for a while. But that would be counterproductive. The consumption of physical strength now is no joke. By then, I will fall down in a few minutes. I must knock Akainu away in one breath to give myself time to evacuate. If I don't rely on the system to use the Tianai Zhensing or complete the body Susanoo, then it seems that there is only one way. Yvonne took a deep breath. The dark dog. Akainu was already on the way, and that fiery fist was about to pierce through Suzanu's head in the next second, and would also pierce through Ivan inside. Inside Suzanu, Ivan's whole body was instantly covered with large beads of sweat, his face turned extremely pale in an instant, and his eyes were full of bloodshot. The already huge Suzanu's size increased again at this moment. In just one breath, it was more than 50 meters long. It became a real behemoth comparable to the size of the ancient giants. Not only that, it began to wear armor on its body. It was wearing clothes like a robe, with armor on its arms and legs, and a robe that seemed to be emitting blue flames on its head, hiding its entire face. Suzanu, the fourth stage. In other words, this is the unformed form of the completed Suzanu. Chapter 56. Boom! The flaming fist hit the blue giant's abdomen heavily, and immediately cracked the giant's abdomen covered with light armor. But it was just a crack. What? Akainu stepped back in surprise. There was no other way. Only by stepping back could he see the whole picture of the huge monster in front of him. It was over 50 meters tall, and its whole body was made of blue energy. There was a hexagonal crystal on its head, and the kid was inside it. It was not good. This feeling of oppression. Boom! The huge base building could no longer bear the weight of the giant on top, and it began to collapse at this time. The giant then fell from above and landed heavily on the ground, and the air wave blew away the rubble all over the ground. Bastard! Akainu was instantly furious. How many marines died in this one blow? This brat must not be avoided. Inside the crystal, Ivan was like being soaked in water, sweating all over. The load is too great. This is the fourth stage of Suzanu in the true sense, which has never been used by Uchiha Sasuke in the comics, and only briefly demonstrated by Uchiha Madara. Combining the two changes in the third stage, turning into a complete human form and wearing armor, it can almost be regarded as the prototype of the complete Suzanu. It's just that the energy of Suzanu at this stage is not large enough, and it is not stable enough. As long as these two are supplemented, Suzanu can expand again, grow wings, and become a real Suzanu. However, even if it is just a prototype, Suzanu in this posture is already strong enough. Without the addition in the state of domineering, he took Akainu's full-strength attack head-on, but only cracked, not completely damaged. However, as it becomes stronger, the consumption is also greater. Ivan is now almost using two forms of the third stage at the same time, and he has to expend extra physical strength to maintain Suzanu's huge body, which is almost 3 times the consumption of the third stage. If Ivan can hold on for a few minutes just to maintain the third stage, then the time he can last in this stage will be calculated in seconds, or perhaps even shorter. So, there is no time to waste. A knife. Only a golden blade appeared in Suzanu's hand. But all 4 arms grasped the hilt of the huge blade at the same time. While the blade was being raised high, it was also slowly turning black from bottom to top. Ha! Akainu landed on the ground, then jumped high up, with thick smoke billowing, and he swung his fist vigorously, big fire breath. The huge lava fist broke through the air in an instant, even bigger than Ivan's Suzanu. What's even more shocking is that this huge fist with rolling lava is even wrapped with domineering aura. Turned to ashes. Akainu roared. Ivan exhaled slowly. It was only the power of one blow. But it was enough. Ashina style, 1 character slash. The huge Suzanu took a step forward, and the 4 arms holding the sword swung down at the same time. The sailors at the 14th Naval Base witnessed an extremely shocking scene at this moment. They didn't even see clearly how the knife was swung down, but found that everything had changed in an instant. With the giant's knife as the starting point, everything in front was cut off. The sky was dislocated, as if it had been chopped by a knife, and even the space was cut off. The huge magma fist was torn into pieces and scattered, and a gap was cut on the ground of the base, and even the sea further ahead was separated, revealing the bare seabed. Even the white clouds in the sky were divided into 2 sides and no longer gathered together. And Vice Admiral Sakaski in the sky had disappeared without a trace at this time. The whole world was silent, and everything seemed to slow down, like a silent movie being played in slow motion. It was not until a few seconds later that the violent wind suddenly began to blow, and the entire G-14 base was instantly covered with flying sand and rocks. The gravel and splashing magma swept by the wind took the lives of many surviving Marines. There were screams everywhere, and it was hell on earth everywhere. The panicked Marines didn't even notice that after one strike, the huge blue giant disappeared in an instant. Ivan's body was falling, and when he was about to hit the ground, he was caught by a shadow soldier, who took him to sink into the shadow. If someone took the opportunity to attack at this time, Ivan would have to consider whether to launch the Tenkai Genshin or complete the Susanoo. Fortunately, no one did. Ivan successfully returned to the shadow space. Almost immediately, Robin swam over from not far away. Ivan. She looked at Ivan at this moment and couldn't help feeling a little sad. Ivan was pale and soaked in sweat. How could he still look as aggressive as usual? Don't worry. Ivan shook his head hard, get out first. Robin can't stay in this space for long. Outside, G14 base. This naval base is now in ruins. The sword of Susanoo almost split the base in the middle. But even if it didn't split it, Ivan left a wide rift here. Sakaski sat on a broken wall in the port, watching the Marines busy rescuing the wounded and saving important facilities. A medic was bandaging him. In addition to the scar left by Ivan at the beginning because of being caught off guard, Sakaski now had another wound on his body. It spread from the right side of the neck to the bottom of the left chest. It was quite large and deep enough to see the bone. The medic who treated him was quite shocked. Lieutenant General Sakaski, what kind of guy is the enemy? It's unimaginable that this gentleman could be injured like this. Sakaski didn't say anything. He just recalled the sword just now. He almost fell into the sea. Even he couldn't defend himself and was directly cut with a wound. That was not a move that ordinary people could use. Is the strength of that kid so strong? There are such monsters in this world? Even Sakaski, who has always been called a monster, found it difficult to understand. No matter how you look at it, that kid is only about 17 or 18 years old, right? How could it be so exaggerated? However, if it was Mr. Garp and Mr. Sengoku, they would definitely not be so embarrassed. After all, they are still a little worse than the real top powerhouses. Contact headquarters. Akainu finally spoke loudly, report what happened here to headquarters immediately. Such a powerful little ghost, the headquarters and the government can't sit idly by. We must pay attention to it as soon as possible, otherwise, the new world may have a new monster in no time. That is something no one wants to see. Chapter 57. Kasisko Island. What happened at the G14 base has not yet affected this island. At the island dock, an inconspicuous boat was slowly sailing out of the port and heading towards the depths of the new world. Ivan sat against the side of the boat, drooping his body, with his legs spread out, looking weak. Robin squatted in front of Ivan, wiping his sweat with a handkerchief. I've never seen you like this. Even when fighting with Moria, Ivan was at ease. But this time, he looked exhausted. This is not surprising. After all, the enemy this time is Sakaski. Isn't this okay? Ivan looked up and smiled with some difficulty. He felt like he was back on the island, the first time, after training every day under Rayleigh's guidance. His physical strength was almost exhausted, and it was not easy to maintain consciousness. His muscles were trembling, and his lungs and heart seemed to explode. It was too much consumption. Anyway, Ivan said intermittently, next, we can go to the giant kingdom. Be happy, Robin. Robin was silent for a moment. She suddenly sat down next to Ivan, and in Ivan's surprised eyes, she grabbed the boy's shoulders and pulled him towards her. Ivan fell down, and then he felt his head being carefully held by Robin, and finally placed on her legs. Knees, knee pillow? Lying on Robin's legs, Ivan blinked. If you look up from this angle, you can't see Robin's face at all. You can only see the magnificent scenery. It's just inferior to Hancock. This way, you can feel more comfortable, right? Robin leaned forward slightly, with a little blush on her face. It can be seen that she was not indifferent. I feel so comfortable that I don't even want to get up. Ivan replied slowly. I'll give you a massage. Robin crossed his arms in front of his chest, 12 rounds of flowers blooming. Arms grew out from the deck beside Ivan and began to massage Ivan's body with light or heavy massage. Ivan couldn't help but moan at the comfortable feeling. Robin's ability is really versatile. So, why? Ivan closed his eyes comfortably. Robin, are you moved by my initiative to cut off your retreat? I just hope you won't do stupid things in the future. Robin leaned on the side of the ship, looking up at the white clouds in the sky. Are you really not afraid? That's Akainu Sakaski, the next admiral of the navy. Robin was very lucky that Ivan was only exhausted and almost uninjured. Of course I am afraid too, but what I fear most, Ivan said calmly, is that one day I will back down because of fear. Robin did not speak, but used his ability to gently massage Ivan's body to relieve the load on his muscles. So don't be afraid of Robin. Ivan squinted his eyes, and his voice became erratic because of the comfort he felt. Just do what you want to do. Because, you are my companion. Robin lowered her head and looked at the boy who was only 1 year older than her lying on her lap. Where is Ivan's most powerful point? Is it his swordsmanship that can easily split mountains and break seas? Is it his ability to control thunder? Is it the meteorite that he summoned to destroy the world? Or is it the blue summoned creature like the god of war? Maybe none of them. Robin thought. The most amazing thing about Ivan is that he has a fearless heart. He is not ignorant of his enemies. On the contrary, Ivan knows how powerful the world government is, but he still doesn't care. Robin has never seen such a person before. Companion? Robin smiled slightly. Ivan, you are also my companion. Only you who are so fearless can tolerate me like this. No matter what danger, just standing by your side will make me feel at ease. However, this thought lasted for a moment in Robin's mind. She immediately reacted. Are many dangers caused by Ivan himself? The look in her eyes when she looked at the boy suddenly became dangerous. Obviously, there was no need to fight many times, right? What happened? Robin, you used too much force. Ah, it hurts. As Ivan was puzzled, the boat drifted farther and farther away, heading towards the direction of the giant kingdom. At this time, in the marine headquarters, Marin was busy with an emergency meeting caused by the sudden attack on the G-14 base. At this time, the senior officials who stayed in the marine headquarters gathered together. The Admiral of the Navy, Kong. The Admiral of the Navy, Sengoku Buddha. The Navy Chief of Staff, Vice Admiral Crane. The Vice Admiral of the Navy, Alternate Admiral Borsellino. It can be said that half of the combat power of the marine headquarters is here. With such a high standard, it can only be said that the attack on the G-14 base was really sensational. Do you know the situation? After briefly introducing the attack, Marshal Kong glanced at his most capable subordinates and said, the power displayed by that kid is not simple. It's really hard to imagine. Borsellino sighed as he trimmed his nails with a nail clipper, that Sakaski was actually injured. He didn't even touch the enemy, but let the enemy run away. Others didn't know Sakaski's strength, but didn't he? They were the same batch of voice actors who joined the Navy at the same time. They were evenly matched opponents during the training camp. If even Sakaski was injured, then he would definitely be injured as well. The most terrifying thing is that the boy is only about 18 or 19 years old at most. The future Admiral of the Navy, Buddha's Warring States, said in a deep voice, it is hard to imagine how far he will be able to reach in a few years. Potential, this is the biggest difference between young people and old people. And there is one more thing. Sakaski said that Guy has the ability to summon shadow warriors and shuttle through the shadows. The woman known as the brain of the Navy, the chief staff officer, he said lightly, I don't know if you still remember that 5 years ago, when Marijoa was attacked, a slave escaped. Yes. Jean Guo was suddenly shocked. The report the government received from the slaves at that time was that the slave also had a similar ability to summon warriors. The age matches. Lieutenant General, he said calmly, report it to the government. The 5 elders have never forgotten what happened 5 years ago. Maybe that boy is the clue. Chapter 58. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and the gloomy clouds were almost pressing down on the sea. The sun's brilliance was almost completely covered, and the world seemed to be getting dark, as if night had fallen. If it weren't for the heavy rain that kept falling. Thunder. In the dark clouds, thunder and lightning kept falling like raindrops, and the sea surface was boiling because of it. It's really spectacular. Ivan looked up at the sky, watching the thunder falling like raindrops, and exclaimed. Now is not the time to lament about these things, right? Robin hid behind him. Ivan, are you sure you can hold on? The boat carrying the two of them was now sailing on the sea covered by the thunderstorm. It may be hard to believe, but the sky was still clear a few minutes ago, and it could even be described as cloudless, but in the blink of an eye, it was already covered with dark clouds and thunder. A simple storm would be difficult for a small boat like this to resist, let alone the thunderstorm at this time. Ivan released Susanoo and directly entered the first stage, using a huge half-skeleton Susanoo to barely cover the center of the ship. But even so, Ivan could only protect the center of the ship, and the bow and stern were still exposed, and the ship was still in danger. Fortunately, the tall Susanoo acted as a lightning rod, and thunder kept falling on Susanoo, causing the blue giant's appearance to shake constantly. "Should we hide in the shadows?" Robin asked. She was afraid that Ivan would not be able to hold on any longer. After all, the thunder in the sky was really scary. "No." Ivan shook his head. "If the ship is destroyed, it will be difficult for us to get out of the shadow. We must find the next node, which is very troublesome. Let me do it." "Let you come?" Robin raised his eyebrows. "What are you going to do?" "Do this." Ivan chuckled. A lightning blade appeared on the forearms of the skeleton Susanoo at the same time, and then the 4 blades were swung at the same time. In an instant, something happened that made Robin dumbfounded. The thunder that fell on Susanoo instantly spread towards the blade, and then was thrown away by Susanoo's blade in the next second. Lightning was launched. Robin asked in astonishment, "What is the principle behind this?" "The name of this move is Thunderbolt Return." Ivan chuckled. "This move is specially used to rebound lightning, and it can only rebound lightning. Now it comes in handy. The first stage Susanoo has no legs, so it should meet the condition of not touching the ground. With this move, even in such a thunderstorm, it can be as if walking on flat ground. The lightning will be pulled in the moment it falls, and then launched by the blade." Robin breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what the move is called, he can finally get through this minefield safely. It should be said that the weather in the New World changes very quickly, and thunderstorms come and go quickly. Just now, there was thunder everywhere, and a few minutes later, it turned into heavy snow. Ivan and Robin huddled in the cabin, wearing thick cotton clothes and drinking freshly brewed hot tea. "We should be there soon." Ivan looked at the sea chart on the table. Although he couldn't tell where he was at this time with his navigation skills, Robin's navigation skills were almost ineffective after entering the New World, but after sailing for so many days, Ivan could still make a rough judgment. After all, Kasiko Island was less than 2,000 nautical miles away from the giant kingdom. Yet, Robin was wearing a loose cotton jacket, a furry hat on her head, and a scarf around her neck. Because she was afraid of the cold, she kept her hands in her sleeves, with only a few fingers exposed. She held up the teacup and sipped the hot black tea gently. Ivan couldn't help but look at her more. She was as cute as a little squirrel. "After arriving at the giant kingdom, if everything goes as expected, we will temporarily separate." Ivan continued, "Robin, you stay in the giant kingdom and study the information left by O'Hara, and I will go and do what I want to do first." "So, what do you want to do?" Robin put down his teacup. "You will know soon." Ivan chuckled, "Not to mention the giant kingdom, as long as you don't live in a remote place, you should know the news." "Does this guy mean that what he is going to do is something that will shake the world?" Robin didn't know. She asked, but Ivan refused to tell her. She couldn't do anything. "So when will we meet again?" Robin asked. "When you feel it is time to leave the giant kingdom," Ivan said, "or when I find the historical text that needs you to translate." Robin nodded gently, "I understand. But first of all, I have to ensure your safety. To be honest, I know nothing about the giant kingdom. This country had not been fully revealed in the comics until Ivan traveled through it. And before setting sail, Ivan had no plans to go to the giant kingdom, so he didn't ask really. This time can really be said to be an adventure full of surprises. If Sorrow is really in the giant kingdom, then there shouldn't be a problem." Robin said softly. Sorrow was a giant she met when she was 8 years old. He was a marine, but he chose to betray the government because he was dissatisfied with the government's massacre of scholars. That giant was Robin's first friend. Because of her, Robin was able to escape from Aokiji's hands. Although they didn't spend much time together, he was indeed a father figure to Robin. He taught Robin how to live in this world. "But if you're not there?" Robin was a little depressed. "If he's not here, then we'll find another way." Ivan said calmly, "There will always be a way, even if I have to rob, I will definitely help you get the information." "What do you mean?" Robin couldn't help but chuckle. "Should I say, this is indeed Ivan's style?" 2 days later, the shadow of land finally appeared in front of the boat. "Here we are. We are finally here." Robin looked at the pointer in her hand, which was pointing straight at the land ahead. A bright smile appeared on the girl's face unconsciously. She looked longingly at the place that was gradually approaching, the Kingdom of Giants. Are friends and O'Hara's legacy all here? As the boat approached the land, its vastness gradually became apparent. The end of the coastline was not visible at all. Another country as big as Alabasta. Yvonne sighed. It's not surprising, because the people living on this land are giants who are 10 times the size of humans. The boat is gradually approaching the coast. At this time, small boats can be seen on the sea near the island. No, as they get closer, when the true appearance of those small boats is revealed in front of them, Yvonne finds that these small boats are small only relative to the people on the boats. Giants about 20 meters tall are fishing on the boats, throwing even larger fishing nets into the sea. Some people even jump directly into the sea, creating huge waves while hacking a huge sea beast to death with weapons. This is the Kingdom of Giants. Robin exclaimed, it's just like in a fairy tale. Let's go, land. Yvonne chuckled. Humanity. It's human. What a small boat, is it really not a toy? It's a pity that they can cross the sea with such a boat. The giants who were fishing on the seaside, but they were just sighing, without any malice. As they sighed, the boat gradually approached the shore. Yvonne and the others got off the boat and finally set foot on the land of the giant kingdom. It's incredible. Robin looked around in amazement. On the coast, huge coconut trees towered into the sky. The coconuts on them were as big as the rocks. It should be said that everything on the island was very tall, huge trees, huge rocks, as if everything on the island was magnified in equal proportion. Human. It's a human. Accompanied by the sound of dong dong dong, a huge shadow stepped closer. It's been a long time since a human came to our place. Chapter 59. This is a round giant, about 20 meters tall, and he doesn't look very old. Judging from human appearance, he is about 20 years old. He, it looks like they are not the same group as before. The giant squatted in front of Yvonne and the others, carrying a huge black mace on his shoulder. The thick and sharp protrusions on the mace were almost as tall as Robin. Robin's breathing became a little heavy almost at the same time the giant appeared. After all, she was not the knowledgeable Nico Robin in the original work. Hello, human, my name is Goldbag, what about you? The giant's attitude was very enthusiastic, even familiar, and he smiled and asked Yvonne and the others. I am Yvonne, and he is Robin. Yvonne raised his head and introduced himself without changing his expression. The giants only look powerful. In fact, they are just that powerful. Let alone the top monsters, there is not much difference between the giants and high-level soldiers that appeared in the original work. Of course, it is not ruled out that there are more powerful guys hidden in the giant kingdom. After all, there are also ancient giants among the giants. Oh! Yvonne and Robin. Goldbag nodded, and the fat on his chin immediately came out because of his action. He looked at the two of them carefully, or mainly at Yvonne. Goldbag, where is the nearest village? Yvonne asked, we have something we want to ask someone about. The giant kingdom is very large, and it would take a long time to find it if we searched bit by ourselves. Village? That's not far away. Goldbag suddenly grinned, staring at the black knife on Ivan's waist, but Yvonne, you seem to be a warrior. Yvonne could see that the giant's eyes were full of excitement. An ominous premonition grew in Robin's heart. Oh! Ivan's mouth corners were already raised, what do you mean? Of course, a warrior must speak with weapons. Goldbag stood up, and the huge mace fell heavily to the ground. The giant said passionately, this is the welcoming ceremony of the giants. That's enough. Robin shook his head helplessly. This time, Yvonne didn't take the initiative to cause trouble, but the other party came to find trouble. I see. Yvonne nodded in understanding. The giants are indeed a group that is eager to fight. And they are all unusually warmongers. In other words, you will only lead us to the nearest village if I defeat you? Yvonne asked. Defeat me? Ha 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 ha. Goldbag laughed, you are really confident, Yvonne. Come on if you can defeat me. But no matter what the result is, I will take you to the village. The huge war hammer was raised high, and this action alone brought an amazing gust of wind, blowing Robin's hair flying. Solve it quickly. Robin whispered in Ivan's ear and then stepped back a few steps to distance himself from him. Don't worry, it will only take a moment. Yvonne smiled, so, Goldbag, can we start? Of course. The spherical giant laughed, come over anytime. Then. Ivan smiled, I'm coming. Whoosh. Goldbag only felt Ivan disappear in an instant. Then, there was a sharp pain in his stomach. Ah! He cried out in pain, and his huge body flew out. Ivan landed lightly on the ground. He just sprinted casually, then jumped up and kicked the giant in the stomach, and everything was over. Goldbag was kicked out by him. After a distance of dozens of meters, he finally sat down heavily on the ground. Although Ivan's observation haki is not very good at distinguishing the strength of the breath, he still has basic vision. It is hard to say whether this giant is stronger than those giant vice-admirals in the navy, let alone fighting him. Ivan. Robin asked worriedly, isn't that a bit too much? It's okay. Ivan pointed forward, isn't that okay? Wow! It hurts so much, so much, so much. The fat Goldbag rolled on the ground holding his belly, I feel like the field has been torn apart. It should be said that he is worthy of being a giant, with thick skin and flesh. You are so powerful. Ivan. Enduring the pain, Goldbag raised his head. His face was a little pale, but there was no distress of failure on his face. Instead, he was amazed. You are really powerful. This kind of power is rare among us giants. Thank you for the compliment. Now, Goldbag, can you take us to the village? Ivan asked. Of course. You are my friends now. The fat giant stood up unsteadily and stretched out his hands to Ivan and the others, come on, I'll take you back. This friendship comes so easily. Ivan turned around and stretched out his hand to Robin. Robin grasped his hand knowingly. Then Ivan jumped lightly and landed directly on Goldbag's shoulder, okay, let's go. Ha 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 ha. Ivan. The giant laughed loudly, stood up, picked up the huge wolf-tooth hammer placed aside, and walked towards the forest. Ivan, why did you come to the giant kingdom? Goldbag asked as he walked forward. To find someone. Ivan held Robin's hand to prevent her from losing balance, a giant named Sorrow. Robin was slightly stunned. Can such a thing be said directly? Sorrow. Goldbagger blinked in confusion. I haven't heard of this name. Let's go back to the village and ask the elders. He might know. Robin's nervous mood became depressed. Was it wrong information? Soon, Goldbagger led Ivan and the others through the forest. A village appeared in their eyes. Huge. The first reaction was that it was abnormally huge. The houses, walls, fences, everything was unusually large. Inside and outside the village, a large number of giants were busy. Hey! Hail ding! As they approached the village, Goldbag shouted happily, I'm back with my friends. Hail ding! Ivan raised his eyebrows immediately. It was a familiar name. Ha ha ha! Ivan is super powerful. He knocked me down with one move. You are definitely not his opponent. Ivan shook his head gently. As soon as this sentence came out, you don't need to think about what will happen next. Oh? Really? I don't believe it. Chapter 60. 4 young giants walked out of the village in front of them. The leading one had long black hair, a helmet and a naked upper body. His lower body was only wearing a battle skirt. He was equipped with armor on both hands, and a shield on the armor on his right arm. The second giant was shorter, with a body shape similar to Goldbag. They were both short and fat. They wore a double-horned helmet on their heads and carried a heavy hammer. The third one was a tall and thin giant with a somewhat gloomy temperament. He wore a double-breasted top and a pair of dark trousers. He had a thick scarf around his neck, which almost covered his original appearance. His weapon was a long sword. As for the last one, it was a tall and plump female giant. She looked quite outstanding. Her long golden hair was scattered like waves, and only the hair on her temples was braided into 2 pigtails. However, although she was a beautiful giant, her weapon was the most exaggerated among the few people. It was a huge axe. Ivan finally remembered their identities the moment he saw these guys. Goldbagger is not a stranger who has not appeared in the original work. They are the new giant pirates, and they consider themselves to be the successors of the world-famous giant pirates 100 years ago. Of course, this so-called new giant pirates is nothing great. In the original work, it is just a member of the Straw Hat Grand Fleet and an affiliated force of the Straw Hat Pirates. As for the leader of the pirate group, it is this guy. Ivan looked at the giant walking in the front, the guy with a naked upper body and a shield in his hand, Helding. In the original work, he appeared in Drosarasa, and after being rescued by the Straw Hat Pirates, he decided to join the Straw Hat Pirates with his companions. I have to say that this is a very wise decision. Several giants stopped in front of Goldbagger, looking at Ivan and the other person on his shoulder. You said this human defeated you. Helding looked at Ivan. He doesn't look that strong at all. Ha 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 ha, Goldbag, you are kidding, right? The equally fat giant laughed out loud. How could humans defeat giants? Don't talk nonsense, stay them, there are countless monsters among humans. The female giant scolded her companion, have you forgotten Charlotte Linling? Ivan knew that these giants here were probably Charlotte Linling's childhood sweethearts, who had played with her when they were young. So it was really a coincidence that they came to the warrior village where Charlotte Linling once lived. That woman. The fat giant Statham's face froze instantly. She's not even human, right? Although Charlotte Linling's rampage in Elbaf happened almost 50 years ago, the giants in this village still remember it vividly. After all, the lifespan of giants is more than 3 times that of humans, and most people in the village witnessed that day. No one has ever forgotten the figure of the child who seemed to be the incarnation of the evil god and was invincible. She is an exception among humans, the tall and thin giant said, but there are many such exceptions. So, this man is really strong. Statham was a little suspicious. No. However, the 2 people who were scolding him just now suddenly said in unison, we'll only know after the fight. Is this the style of the giants? Robin whispered in Ivan's ear. No wonder Sorrow said that the giants in Elbaf are very violent. It's simple and straightforward, but not bad, right? Ivan chuckled. What Rhodes and Gertz said is right. Helding looked at Ivan with a burning gaze, human. Come and fight me. We will know who is stronger and who is weaker only after the fight. Wait. Wait, Helding. Fortunately, Goldbag hurriedly stopped him and said, Ivan and Robin are here to find someone. Let me take them to see the elders first. Looking for someone. Helding was stunned. Humans come to Elbaf to look for someone. They are looking for a giant named Sorrow, but I don't think I have ever heard of this name. Goldborg explained. Sorrow. Helding frowned and looked back at the other 3 companions. I haven't heard of it. The 3 of them shook their heads collectively. Well, let's go see the elder first. Helding nodded. Goldbag's friends are our friends, let us help you find them. They are rough and righteous when they see each other. This is the giant tribe. Thank you for your help. Robin thanked him sincerely. Ha ha ha. That's nothing. Helding laughed, not taking it seriously at all. So, the 5 people took Ivan and the other 2 into the village. It should be said that the 5 people had a good reputation in the village, and people kept greeting them. Of course, there were more curious eyes cast on Ivan. After all, as Goldbag said, no human had been to this village for a long time. The 5 people took Ivan and the other 2 to the deepest part of the village, outside the largest house. Without knocking on the door, they pushed it open and walked in. Elder. We have brought humans here. Helding shouted. Ivan looked around briefly. The interior was very simply decorated with regular tables and chairs, almost no different from an ordinary human home. It was just 10 times larger. From the inner room, a huge, trembling figure walked out. It was an old giant with a white beard, hunched over, and coughed twice. Helding? You said you brought humans here. Elder. Robin couldn't wait to speak, we are here to find someone. Haguel D. Sorrow, do you know this person? Sorrow. The elder was stunned for a moment, then looked at Robin in astonishment. Little girl, where did you know this name? At this moment, a huge joy suddenly exploded in Robin's chest, and she unconsciously grasped Ivan's hand very tightly. She didn't care about much else, and hurriedly said, I am a survivor of O'Hara. It was Sorrow who saved me at that time. I always thought he was dead, but recently I learned that he might not be dead. And he has returned to Elbaf. O'Hara. The elder looked at Robin carefully, and then exclaimed, Are you Nicole Robin? I have seen your wanted poster before. It's me. Robin didn't deny it at all and nodded directly. O'Hara. Helding and his companions were also somewhat surprised. It seems that we heard about this place from the people in the village. The elder finally spoke. Is that so? Then I have nothing to hide. About 8 years ago, the royal city asked the village to send some warriors to O'Hara in the West Sea to bring back some things. As for who is leading the team, Robin was so excited that he didn't even blink, he just stared at the giant elder. Yvonne was not wrong, what he said was true. You can ask him yourself. The elder looked at Hailding and others, take them to the royal city, to meet His Majesty the King, to meet that person. Is it so smooth? Yvonne was a little surprised. But then he thought about it, it was entirely because of Robin's identity. If it were someone else, I'm afraid they would have denied it long ago. Chapter 61. Hailding and his companions generously accepted the tasks assigned by the elders, and after a few formalities, they set off with Yvonne and the other two. There was no means of transportation, so the 5 of them were ready to swing their big feet and take Yvonne and the other two across a distance of thousands of kilometers to the giant king's capital. It sounds a bit exaggerated, but considering that the giants are 10 times the size of humans, thousands of kilometers in the human sense are just a few hundred kilometers for them, which is actually only 2 or 3 days. However, this journey came to a temporary halt just as it began. The 5 giants surrounded Yvonne and the other two, almost blocking out the sunlight from above. If you didn't know, you might think this was some new form of giant bullying. Although the elder's commission is important, there is still something more important to do. Hailding looked down at Yvonne. Come on. Yvonne. Let me see your strength. It shouldn't waste too much of your time. After Hailding, it's me. Although Gertz is a beautiful giant, the only difference between her and Hailding is her appearance and gender. She is still as brutal and belligerent as the Elbaf giants. Then it's me, cheered Fats Nathan. Then I will be the finale. The gloomy giant Rhodes' voice also carried a hint of melancholy. Of course, the content of his words had nothing to do with melancholy. That's enough. Robin sighed softly. What kind of people are the giants? Almost every one of them is eager to fight. Yvonne patted Robin's back gently, motioning her to be patient. He smiled and said, in order to save time, you should come together. What? Hailding frowned immediately. Although we are friends, you are too contemptuous, Yvonne. You actually want to fight all of us alone. No, no, no. Yvonne shook his head, I am the one who is looked down upon. Buzz. An invisible gale swept across the sky and earth in an instant. Several giants felt their brains tremble and immediately felt dizzy and stepped back. Hey! Hailding said in disbelief, what is this? It was the domineering aura of the Overlord. He saw Yvonne leaping into the air, stretched out his right hand and gently pushed him. The invisible wave came towards him, knocking Hailding to the ground on his back. The other people didn't have a good ending either. Yvonne just threw his hand wrapped in the domineering aura, and they were immediately knocked down by the oncoming domineering aura. Is it over? Yvonne landed lightly on the ground. If you want to fight him, you must at least master the guns of Elbaf, right? If Baguo Bahai can't come up, how can you be his enemy? Is it domineering? The gloomy Rhodes raised his head drowsily, with a look of shock on his face, that is domineering. What a terrible power! Being able to knock himself and others down so easily, does this mean that as long as Yvonne wants, he can kill himself and others in an instant? Amazing! What an amazing power, Yvonne! Snazen exclaimed, Goldbag really didn't lie. I now fully believe that you can kill him in seconds. Indeed. Gertz was also amazed, this is the power of the strong humans. This feeling of powerlessness made me think of Lingling back then. Only Hailding's face was a little stiff. He couldn't believe it. How could the gap be so big? He had been training hard all these years, but how could he still be so vulnerable? In this state, how could he still talk about reviving the giant soldier pirates? How could he still talk about becoming the king of the giants? Damn it! Hailding roared suddenly, and slammed his right fist heavily on the ground, causing the ground to shake. Robin was slightly startled. Could he be angry out of shame? Thank you, Yvonne. However, something unexpected happened again. Hailding stood up and bowed solemnly to Yvonne. Yvonne was a little confused, but, Hailding, I don't think I have done anything to deserve your gratitude. He can't be a masochist, right? He gets more excited after being beaten? You made me realize how weak I am. Hailding said seriously, as expected, it is impossible to become a truly strong person by working in isolation. I will go out to sea later too. Only by sailing on the sea can I become stronger. The other giants were stunned for a moment, then immediately nodded in unison, let's go out to sea together. Okay. Hailding looked at the determined faces of his companions and smiled happily, then let's revive the giant pirates in advance. Oh. Ivan looked up at this scene, why did he suddenly get excited? But before that, Hailding lowered his head, Ivan, let's take you to the royal city first. Then please. Then, the 5 giants led Ivan and the other 2 to travel day and night. It must be said that in addition to their huge size and infinite power, the giants' endurance is also quite outstanding. They traveled almost day and night. Finally, at noon on the 3rd day, a huge city appeared in front of Ivan and the other 2. This is really... Even Ivan couldn't help but be a little shocked at this time, it's so exaggerated. This is a huge city even for the giants. The towering walls are like mountains. The gate embedded in the wall is as big as the gate of justice under the government. Humans standing in front of this city are almost the same as ants. They can only be shocked from the bottom of their hearts. Ha 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 ha. This is the city that we giants are most proud of. Hailding said with pride, if nothing unexpected happens, this should be the largest city in the world. We haven't been here many times, so let's go shopping together later. But now, let's get down to business first. After entering the city and walking along the endlessly wide road, Ivan and his companions arrived in front of the palace of the giant kingdom about an hour later. Of course, it was also unusually huge. Hailding volunteered to go to the palace gate to negotiate with the guard. The guard looked at Ivan and his companions for a few times, and took Hailding into the palace. Ivan, who was waiting in the huge square outside the palace, suddenly felt his hand sink, and a hand grabbed his sleeve. Ivan turned around and saw the nervousness on Robin's face. The girl was half expectant and half timid. Ivan. Don't worry. Ivan said calmly, we'll know the outcome soon. Robin nodded gently, but did not let go of Ivan's sleeve. The heavy door of the palace opened, and Hailding and a giant walked out quickly. Nico Robin. Where is Nico Robin from O'Hara? The strange giant looked around anxiously as he walked out of the palace, shouting. Is that you? He quickly noticed Ivan and the other man, and walked in quickly, staring at Robin with surprise. I didn't expect you to come. This is such a pleasant surprise. O'Hara's legacy is here. Just waiting for you to come and take it. This is the prince of our giant kingdom, Prince Loki. Hailding introduced quickly. Prince Loki? Ivan looked at the giant. He looked younger than Hailding and the others. Is this the giant prince who almost became Charlotte Lingling's son-in-law in the original work? Are you the Ivan that Hailding mentioned? Since you are their friend, you are my friend, and a friend of our giant kingdom. Loki also looked at Ivan and praised him repeatedly, you are indeed an incredible strong man. I really want to fight with you. Ivan chuckled. The friendship of the giants is really generous. In addition, the tradition of war is really deep-rooted. Come on, Miss Robin. Prince Loki looked at Robin, come with me to see that man. Yes. Robin nodded heavily. Finally, are they going to meet? As for Mr. Ivan and the others. Loki added, after I send Miss Robin over, how about I take you around the city? Okay. Ivan nodded happily. Chapter 62. The capital of the giant kingdom. On a street in this city, which is probably the largest in the world, Ivan stood on the shoulders of the giant Prince Loki and looked out at the scene of the street. It can only be described as looking out. The length of a street is often more than 10 kilometers, and the width is about 200 or 300 meters. Even with Ivan's eyesight, he cannot see the other end of the street from one end. If you don't ride on these giants, you can't go around at all, it's too big. It has to be said that although the social form of the giant kingdom is still relatively backward, the villages scattered across the country are almost equivalent to small tribes, and even the position of the giant king is a competitive job, and the strong are respected, but the largest city in the giant kingdom is still rich in various commodities. However, only Hailding and others are really happy to go shopping, but Ivan can only watch. Because everything is huge. Huge streets, huge shops, huge pedestrians, and even various commodities are super large sizes specially provided by giants, which Ivan can't use at all. Ivan can only look. Ha 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 ha. Because there are not many humans coming here, there are not many commodities for you to use, laughed Prince Loki, who condescended to serve as Ivan's tour guide, but speaking of it, humans are really amazing. They can actually produce so many commodities for us giants to use. Ivan learned from Prince Loki that although the giants are not very open, they do not refuse to trade with humans. After all, although the giant kingdom is vast and not mostly useless desert land like Alabasta, it is impossible for all commodities to be self-sufficient. The social form of the giant kingdom is relatively backward. Let alone large-scale industrial production, even the development of handicrafts is quite backward. They can only rely on human merchants. Boom! A loud noise suddenly came from the corner of the street ahead. Ivan raised his eyebrows and scanned with his observation haki, and found that someone was fighting on the other side of the street corner. Is anyone causing trouble? No. Prince Loki shook his head, it's a duel. Come on, Ivan, I'll show you how we giants solve problems. That word, it seems that there is no need to watch it, I already know your way to solve problems. Ivan chuckled. When everyone walked past the corner of the street, a wide open space came into view. It is hard to imagine that in a corner of a busy street, there would be an empty area with no buildings. But in the giant kingdom, such an area is necessary. At this time, in this open field, two giants were passionately hacking each other. It was a real hacking. One person held a big sword, and the other held a heavy hammer, and they greeted each other mercilessly. As soon as Ivan arrived, he saw that the giant with the sword cut a wound on the opponent's chest, and then he was immediately blown away by a hammer. This kind of thing actually happened in the street, and no one stopped it. Not to mention the organization, there were even many giants watching around this area, and they greeted Prince Loki friendly when they saw him coming. His Royal Highness has a high reputation among the giants. Of course, among the giants who respect the strong, this may also be related to his strength. Oh! It's so rare to see a duel between warriors. Hailding and others looked at the field, and they didn't think anything was wrong at all, and even shouted excitedly, even if they are accidentally injured, it's worth the ticket price. What bloodthirsty audience! Or rather, every giant is a bloodthirsty audience. Probably because of the cheering of the audience, the two giants on the field fought more vigorously. A sword and a hammer kept colliding, and each time it exploded like thunder. The strength of these two guys is much stronger than Hailding and others. Both the strength and the moves are much stronger than Hailding. Their fight can definitely be described as wonderful. The body was torn by the giant sword and blood splattered, and the shoulder was directly fractured by the heavy hammer. The life and death fight made all the onlookers boil. However, although they were attacking each other mercilessly, the two giants on the field had bright smiles on their faces. It was as if they were not fighting, but playing games together. Are they enemies? Ivan was a little curious. It didn't look like they were enemies. But if they were enemies, there was no need to fight to the death, right? Of course not. Prince Loki shook his head. Maybe there was some dispute. Dispute? Ivan raised his eyebrows. If he understood correctly, the word dispute was generally used to describe conflicts that were not so serious, right? Words are pale and powerless. True warriors, of course, must use swords to debate. Prince Loki's speech was impassioned. Nothing can determine who is right and who is wrong better than a duel. Ivan pursed his lips. Should we say that they are worthy of being giants? If I remember correctly, the two former captains of the giant soldier pirates, Donley and Brokey, fought in the small garden for 100 years because of a dispute over who hunted the bigger sea king. The battle between the two giants on the field has reached its climax. Both of them took a few steps back because of the heavy blows from the other side. Then they held their weapons with their scarred hands at the same time and raised them high. Oh! Could it be? Hailding shouted excitedly, the spear of Elbaf! The spear of Elbaf! The two giants roared at the same time, Wayaguo! The great sword and the war hammer were swung at the same time, and two huge shock waves roared out in an instant, and then collided with each other in the next moment. A huge explosion occurred, and the giants closest to the venue were directly blown away. Even Ivan felt a strong wind coming towards him. However, the audience who were accidentally injured not only did not complain, but cheered in unison. This is the spear of Elbaf. It is a move that we giants are proud of. Loki laughed and introduced it to Ivan. Even among the giants, only a very small number of powerful warriors can master it. A very small number of warriors? Ivan looked at the field. The warrior holding the heavy hammer had fallen to the ground, bleeding profusely. Oh! The great sword giant raised his arms high and shouted vigorously. All the spectators cheered and encouraged the winner. Ivan just looked at the giant who fell to the ground. He was already dying. Is this the giant tribe? It's so terrifying. Lance of Elbaf, can I learn this move? Ivan suddenly asked. I remember there is a joint attack move that can be used by two people, right? He was not interested in single-player moves like Waiguo. What Ivan was interested in was moves like Baguio Bahai. After all, his Susanoo had 4 arms. Of course. Ivan, you are a friend of our giants. Between friends, a few moves are nothing. Prince Loki patted his chest to promise, and then he curled his lips, let me teach you through fighting. Ivan's mouth twitched. Should I say, he is worthy of being the prince of the giants? Almost at the same time, on the sea near Elbaf, a huge ship was approaching rapidly. It was a strange big ship that was singing while sailing. Chapter 63. In the evening, Prince Loki held a banquet in the palace to welcome Ivan and others. The king of this country did not show up, and Loki did not mention it, so Ivan did not ask. After touring the capital in the afternoon, Loki began to teach Ivan a move called the Spear of Elbaf as he promised. In a fighting way. Although the Spear of Elbaf is a gun in name, it is actually more like a cannon. A wave cannon. There are also some moves similar to the 8 punches of the 8 treasures navy, which are moves that send out giant shock waves. But the power is much stronger than the 8 punches. Even Charlotte Linlin is still using a move called Waiguo, and the combined attack move Ba Hai is a unique skill that she and Kaido have treasured. Hating and others also followed to learn. Although Loki said that it was too early for them to learn these moves, these guys were quite persistent, so Loki let them go. After all, the main feature of the giants is that they are reckless. The banquet was held in a hall in the palace. For Ivan, the hall was really too big, almost like a large square. What was even more troublesome was that Ivan could not use the tables and chairs used by the giants. Fortunately, Loki was very considerate and specially prepared tables and chairs suitable for human use for him, and placed them on a huge dining table, which could be described as a table on a table. Just like their style, the food of the giants was also rough. Huge barbecue, huge bread, desserts without any shape, no nutritional combination, mainly for energy replenishment. Loki cut the food and placed it in front of Ivan. Then, the banquet officially began. Welcome our friends. Loki raised his huge wine glass and shouted, cheers! Cheers! Everyone shouted happily. Ivan also raised his glass. The lively banquet began. Although they had only known each other for a short time, the giants were indeed a very hospitable group and they still chatted with Ivan enthusiastically. Loki introduced Ivan to the various customs and practices of the giant kingdom. Ivan told them about his adventures along the way. When they heard that Ivan had been to an island 10,000 meters above the sea, everyone exclaimed in unison. Sky Island? We want to go there too. Helding even declared immediately, our new giant pirates will go to the sky sooner or later. New giant pirates? Prince Loki laughed, are you trying to revive the giant pirates? That's not an easy task. We will do it. Helding said angrily, when that time comes, Prince Loki, let's fight for the title of Giant King again. Sure. Faced with such a rebellious statement by Helding, Prince Loki actually nodded happily. He even raised his glass and toasted Helding with appreciation, I'm waiting for you. Helding also raised his glass excitedly and drank it all. At this time, Ivan suddenly said, speaking of the giant pirates, the 2 captains, the blue demon Turai and the red demon Broki, are still fighting fiercely in the small garden now, right? What? Loki, Helding and others exclaimed at the same time. Helding was so excited that he sat down on the ground. He hurriedly asked, Ivan, do you mean that Boss Dongli and Boss Broki are still alive? Ivan was really surprised, don't you know? Dongli and Broki have been dueling on the small garden island near the entrance of the Grand Line for the past 100 years, and they have never stopped. So that's it. So that's it. Loki was very excited, as expected of Dongli and Broki. The heroes of our giants. The glorious duel lasted for nearly 100 years. Still alive. Helding was shaking with excitement, great. Now we can let them hand over the giant soldier pirates to us. Completely revive this pirate group. You really don't know? Didn't the other giant soldier pirates tell them when they came back? Ivan raised his eyebrows, so, you don't know about the 2 giants from the giant soldier pirates who were tricked by the government to guard the gate of Judicial Island? What? There is such a thing. Loki frowned, the giants of the giant pirates? Could they be Oimo and Casey who went out to sea to look for Turai and the others many years ago? Were those two idiots deceived by the navy? Leave it all to us. Hailding patted his chest and said, we will go out to sea and head to the first half of the Grand Line to find Boss Dongli and the others, and rescue Senior Casey and the others by the way. Okay. Loki nodded, then I'll leave it to you. You really believe in them? Ivan shook his head, Judicial Island is not such a simple place, don't be impulsive, Helding. Don't worry, Ivan. Helding was very confident, I will become stronger. Until no one can stop me. You are very confident too. Ivan sighed. He didn't know what to say. The banquet lasted until the second half of the night. After the banquet, Ivan finally saw Robin again. The girl was escorted by a giant dressed as a guard. Ivan saw that the girl's eyes were a little red. It seemed that she had cried hard. So, they did not come to the wrong place. But Ivan did not ask Robin who he met and what he saw. Ivan, I will stay here for a while. Robin said seriously, you go and do what you want to do first. I will inherit O'Hara's legacy in the shortest time possible, and then I will be able to help you. Ivan nodded slightly, yeah, that's what we agreed on. This guy, is he a little too calm? I have been through a very complicated psychological struggle. Robin pursed his lips, Ivan, remember to pick me up. Yeah. Ivan nodded again, this is what we agreed on before. Robin frowned slightly, what's wrong with this guy? Ivan, don't you have anything else to say? Want to say something? Ivan was stunned for a moment, rest early. Miss Robin, who has always been intellectual and elegant, suddenly looked a little fierce. Hey! Ivan tilted his head. Robin, you stepped on my foot. Really? Robin said with a smile, sorry, I didn't see it. But he was still grinding my toes hard. Ivan thought for a while, could it be that Robin was reluctant to let me leave? How is that possible? Robin still smiled, I've said it all, I just didn't see it. Ivan said, but I won't leave for the time being, I'll stay for a while. Robin was stunned. I am learning the fighting skills of the giants from Prince Loki. Ivan said calmly. Really? You really have time to spare. Robin nonchalantly withdrew his foot from Ivan's instep, and lifted the hair beside his ear, the tip of his ear was slightly red. She didn't know anything about this. Was the reaction too extreme? So cute. Ivan looked at the shy girl, but sighed in his heart. This is troublesome, Hancock has a bad temper, and Robin is no match for her at all. A few days later, at the coast of the Giant Kingdom. A big ship has docked. There are giants approaching on the coast. They frowned as they looked at the big ship and the people getting off the ship. Is it you again? Don't you get tired of coming here every year? Among the people getting off the boat, the leader was a tall man wearing a scarf. Mom is going to hold a tea party, we are here to invite the Giant King. Chapter 64. Giant Kingdom, suburbs near the capital. Hailding and others have returned to the village, ready to go out to sea, so only Ivan is here to practice. He has summoned Susanoo. And it is the second stage of Susanoo. The half of his body wrapped in Susanoo has grown muscles and wrapped in outer clothes. What an interesting ability. Prince Loki was standing not far from him, looking at Ivan's appearance at this time, he couldn't help but sigh, he has become more like a giant than a giant. He had experienced the power of Ivan's Susanoo. It was indestructible and indestructible at the same time. Even among the devil fruits, it should be the top one, right? Naturally, Loki, like other people who have seen Ivan's ability, regarded Susanoo as a manifestation of Ivan's devil fruit ability. However, can this form really perform those moves? Loki was skeptical about Ivan's fantasy. Even though the blue giant he summoned had 4 arms. This guy is really whimsical. But Ivan's changes to Susanoo are not over yet. Based on the second stage of Susanoo, new changes were born. The Susanoo, which originally had 1 body and 4 arms, suddenly cracked from the middle and turned into 2 human figures connected back to back, and even the face was split into 2. This is Uchiha Madara's unique 2-sided Susanoo. Oh? So there are new changes. Prince Loki was even more surprised. After turning into 2-faced Susanoo, a blade was formed in each of the 2 halves of Susanoo's hands, and 4 hands tightly grasped 2 swords. At this time, Susanoo's shape was like 2 samurai standing back to back, holding their weapons tightly. Oh! Is it coming? Although Loki didn't think Ivan's attempt would succeed, it didn't mean that he didn't look forward to the next performance. Ivan breathed calmly inside Susanoo. The Spear of Elbaf is not a difficult move. The difficulty lies in having the strength to use these moves. In the original work, Hailding forcibly used the Spear of Heroes, which resulted in shattered fractures of his hands and feet. This is definitely not a move that a weak person can use. But Ivan is not a weak person. Even if he is not the strongest man on the sea, he is definitely not a weak person. After learning from Loki for a few days and figuring out the basic principles of these moves, Ivan felt that he could test his conjecture. The two halves of the two Susanos each clenched the blade in their hands, lightning and domineering. The chi synchronously covered the blade, and then the blade was raised. Unlike the moves such as Waiguo used by a single person, Baguo Bahai used by two people requires the fusion and collision of different forces to achieve the effect of 1 + 1 being greater than 2. Logically speaking, even if there are 4 hands, it cannot be used, because one's own strength is one's own strength and will not change because of the number of arms. But Ivan thinks he can. Doesn't it just require different powers? Doesn't the power of thunder breathing have the same origin as Susanoo? Although they both rely on Ivan's physical strength, they are actually completely different abilities. At this time, the two forces converged into one. Ivan's eyes suddenly became stern. The two Susanos are ready to go. The gun of Elbaf. Hegemony. The two swords were swung at the same time, and the air became distorted in an instant, and then turned into a surging torrent that swept away. Oh! Loki's eyes widened in surprise. No way! What did he see? A huge spiral shock wave surged out from Ivan, and it penetrated everything in front of it unstoppably. The protruding rocks were plowed flat, the towering earth slopes were crushed, and a path was opened in the dense forest in an instant. Even the mountain in the distance was shaking violently at this time, and finally, a hole was opened in the middle by this surging wave. It's really a hegemony. As an excellent giant warrior, Prince Loki certainly wouldn't be wrong. That was definitely not the combination of two powerful powers, but the perfect fusion and collision of two different forces, resulting in a combined stunt. Giant Ivan really released a move that originally required two people to use. Could this guy really be a genius? The magnificent spiral shock wave slowly dissipated, and Ivan dispersed the Susanoo surrounding his body. What appeared in front of him at this time was a straight passage, with him as the center, extending to the other side of the distant mountain. The bottom of this chiseled passage is extremely round, as if it was cut out with a knife. Should it be said that it is worthy of being the Spear of Elbaf? It is really the trajectory shot by a gun. It's just that the power of this gun is somewhat amazing. Really good. Ivan nodded in satisfaction. But judging by the power, this is already far superior to Dragon Flash. Ivan! You actually did it! Loki came over in amazement. This is something we giants have never imagined. It was just luck. Ivan said modestly, it's just that my ability is special. Loki nodded, he agreed with this explanation. Hegemony has already tried it, why not try Hegemony of the Sea? That is a more powerful combined skill that is superior to Hegemony. Ivan was a little tempted. That move is not much more difficult than Hegemony. But at this time, Your Highness! A giant came running from a distance and shouted to Loki, that group of people. Charlotte Lingling's sons are here again. Hey! Ivan was stunned. Charlotte Lingling? Here again? Loki sighed, they come every year, they are so persistent. Ivan asked, Charlotte Lingling? I heard that giants all over the world hate her. So, why did she send people here? And, according to Loki, this is not the first time. That's right. Loki nodded, Charlotte Lingling once did something unforgivable in Elbaf, but this guy has always wanted to ease relations with us. Every year, he sends people to give gifts and invites us to her tea party. Ivan understood. Indeed. If Charlotte Lingling really had nothing to do with the giant kingdom anymore, how did she learn the giant fighting skills? How did she get Prince Loki and her daughter to go on a blind date? So, Charlotte Lingling's relationship with the giants is not that bad? If her daughter hadn't finally run away from the marriage, I'm afraid she would have really turned the relationship between the two sides around. Ivan, you continue to practice, I will deal with them. Loki said. No. Ivan was interested, is it someone from the Charlotte family? Let me go meet them. Loki was stunned, then nodded, okay, but Ivan, don't talk nonsense, the Charlotte family is not easy to mess with, it's best not to let them know that Robin is here, and Charlotte Lingling also covets the final island. Yvonne nodded gently, this is a good brother, very thoughtful. Okay. The two of them hurried back to the giant king city, and soon they saw the Charlotte family at the gate of the palace. Yvonne saw the leader of the Charlotte family at a glance. Tall and strong, with a black leather jacket and leather pants, a scarf around his neck, and short dark red hair. Charlotte Katakuri. Charlotte Lingling really values the giants. She directly sent the second in command of the family over. Yvonne raised his eyebrows. When he observed Katakuri, Katakuri also looked at him. The two met eyes. Katakuri frowned slightly. He knew Yvonne. Chapter 65. Today, the Charlotte family is one of the three most powerful pirate groups in the New World. Only the Whitebeard pirates and the Beasts pirates can be compared with them. In addition to these two behemoths, even Wang Ji, who occupied the Beehive Island, and the super rookie Red Hair Shanks, who was unstoppable, could not be compared with the Big Mom pirates. In addition to its huge power and strength, the Charlotte family has another significant feature. Their intelligence system is the best among all the pirates. Although it is not strong enough to be compared with the world government, it is definitely far beyond the level of ordinary pirates. So Katakuri knew about Yvonne. He even knew that Yvonne attacked the Navy G-14 base not long ago. Although he didn't know what happened on the island, this matter was not publicized on the sea, and this kid didn't even increase his bounty. So, why did this kid appear here? Katakuri was a little suspicious. The first time this kid appeared in the eyes of the world was in the West Sea, where he defeated the Eight Treasures Navy. How did he get involved with the giants? And it seems that he has a close relationship with the giant Prince Loki. This is something that his mother has always dreamed of, and this kid has done it. Moreover, this man has been working with Nico Robin before. Nico Robin is the last descendant of O'Hara. Although the government's propaganda has always been that the island was forced to destroy them in order to revive ancient weapons, Katakuri knows that the destruction of O'Hara was only because the scholars on the island were studying ancient texts and historical texts. That woman is the last O'Hara scholar, and she may have mastered the knowledge of interpreting historical texts. Although Pudding can also interpret historical texts after her third eye awakens when she grows up, who would mind having two preparations? I just don't know if he still acts with Nico Robin after coming to the New World. Thoughts flashed in his mind, but Katakuri looked up at Prince Loki in front of him seriously. Long time no see, Prince Loki, my mother asked me to say hello to you. We brought you gifts from all over the ocean. This game of I'm fine with you is almost over, right? Logic, who was very cheerful and kind in front of Yvonne, now looked gloomy. We have been tolerant enough towards you, and now this state of non-interference is the best state. If you have such thoughts, it means that you still have grudges about what happened in the past. Katakuri seemed to have experienced this situation many times, and he didn't care at all, and remained calm. Then our actions have meaning. No matter how many times we come, please accept our gift. Besides, Mom's tea party this year is about to start, and she also asked me to invite you and your parents to attend. Tisk. Yvonne smacked his lips. In order to gain the power of the giants, Katakuri, or Charlotte Lingling, has been so humble. It's not an exaggeration to say that he is a bootlicker, right? But it is understandable. Elbaf is the world's #1 power, and the quality of its individual soldiers is unmatched anywhere in the world. In addition, the giants are not without masters, and the quality of their high-end masters is equally good. As Charlotte Lingling said, if she can really win over the giants, she will have power that exceeds Kaido and Whitebeard. After all, the difference in strength between the three of them is far less than the gain that the giants can bring. To be honest, Loki also had a headache at this time. Of course, it was not possible to just drive these guys away. Charlotte Lingling at this time was no longer the monster kid from decades ago. She was now a fully grown, genuine monster queen. Even the giant kingdom was unwilling to go to war with the Charlotte family. If they were not careful, the country would face huge destruction. That's why, although everyone disliked them over the years, the Charlotte family came to give gifts every year and invited them to the tea party. So, Loki could only take out his old attitude: we can accept the gifts, but forget about the tea party. My father is away for something, and I have to preside over state affairs, so I can't leave. Is it because of this that Loki will have the opportunity to meet Lola in the future? Yvonne thought. In a few years, Loki will definitely be persuaded to attend the tea party, and then Wanguo will fall in love with Charlotte Lola at first sight. Although Yvonne thinks this marriage is not suitable, after all, the difference in body size is too big. Charlotte Lingling's plan was almost successful. It's a pity that Lola didn't like Loki and chose to run away from the marriage, so the plan fell through. Now I think about it and feel sorry for Charlotte Lingling. This is a long plan that has lasted for more than 10 or 20 years, and it was completely ended because of her daughter's runaway marriage. In that case, please come and see us next year. Katakuri was very reasonable, and he had probably already prepared himself mentally. Tea party, sounds interesting. But at this time, to the surprise of Loki and Katakuri, Yvonne suddenly interrupted, Loki is not going, can I go? How about I be the representative of the giant kingdom? Yvonne! Loki screamed in surprise. The usually calm Loki was confused at this moment. What are you talking about? Didn't we agree not to interrupt? Go to attend Charlotte Lingling's tea party? Yvonne, do you know how dangerous that woman is? I'm serious, Loki. Yvonne said, there's something I really want to do next, and I need someone's help. I think he should show up at Charlotte Lingling's tea party. This is his purpose. Katakuri frowned slightly. What exactly does this guy want to do? It actually involves the family? Loki was silent for a moment. He looked at Yvonne, and it seemed that his friend was not joking. So. I understand. How can I say that Loki is a good brother? He nodded slightly and looked at Katakuri, let Yvonne represent me and go back with you to the tea party, Katakuri. Yvonne is one of my best friends, and if he goes, it's the same as if I went. If he is hurt in Wano country, then it is equivalent to a provocation to our Elbaf. Katakuri's eyes did not change, he just lowered his head and looked at Yvonne. Who does this guy want to see? Or is it just an excuse? However. Of course, we will ensure his safety. Katakuri said calmly, bet your mother's name. This is an opportunity. An opportunity to improve relations with the giants. Chapter 66. Somewhere in the palace. Big Mom's tea party. After finishing the day's work of sorting out materials and studying, Miss Robin stood up and slapped the table. The always intellectual and elegant beauty was so excited that her cheeks flushed. Yvonne, are you serious? Is there something wrong with your brain? Charlotte Linlin, even though I'm in the West Sea, I'm familiar with her name. Without a doubt, she's the strongest female pirate in the world. She leads one of the strongest pirate groups in the world. That's a real monster that's scarier than Akainu. I might die. Oh, that's really rare. Yvonne was eating, holding a huge piece of barbecue. Robin can actually say so many words in one breath. Mr. Yvonne. Robin's foot crushed on Ivan's instep, his eyes had already turned cold, now is not the time to joke. Ha ha ha, don't worry, Robin. Prince Loki, who was sitting on a huge chair nearby, laughed. Although I also think Ivan's behavior is risky, he went there as a representative of the giants, so I don't think Charlotte Lingling would do anything to him. Charlotte Lingling wants to get the support of the giant kingdom. Miss Robin stomping on Yvonne certainly has no deterrent effect. He said lightly, on this basis, she has been trying to please me, Loki's friend, so how could she harm me? Moreover, there might be unexpected gains on this trip. Charlotte Lingling has a historical text of the road sign in her hand, and maybe she can get it. But Yvonne didn't say it, fearing that if he didn't get it, Robin would be disappointed. Wait until you get it and give Robin a surprise. So. Robin frowned, who do you want to see? Morgans from the World Economic News Agency. Yvonne chuckled, the world's #1 paparazzi. Morgans. Robin's face was full of confusion, why are you looking for that guy? She didn't understand. Yvonne still had no intention of speaking frankly, he smiled mysteriously, you will know soon. Robin gritted her teeth secretly. Anyway, I will leave with Katakuri and the others tomorrow. Yvonne looked at the girl, it's convenient for you to show up in front of them. Now, it's almost time to say goodbye, right? Robin was stunned for a moment, so fast. Katakuri and the others can't stay here any longer. Loki explained briefly, then he stood up, anyway, I'm full, I'm going to go out for a walk, you guys can have a good chat. He left. Yvonne and Robin were left looking at each other in silence. Goodbye? Robin was a little silent. Has he said what he wanted to say before? Now he doesn't know what to say. Ivan looked at the silent girl, smiled gently, stepped forward, opened his arms and hugged the slender girl into his arms. The girl in his arms trembled slightly, but immediately lay down in his arms. After all, the current Robin is not the Robin 12 years later in the original work. She is still a girl, still full of expectations, and has not yet despaired of this world. Ivan certainly knows what the girl thinks of him. Maybe it can't be called love, but he is definitely the person she trusts the most. Wait until I come back. Ivan said. The girl's voice came softly from his arms, floating like clouds in the sky. No need to say anything more, just goodbye, that was enough. After all, this was not a permanent separation, just a farewell before the next meeting. The next morning, at the gate of the capital of the giant kingdom. Katakuri, Ivan is now in your hands. Loki came to see Ivan off, and before leaving, he once again solemnly told Katakuri. Yet, Katakuri just nodded calmly. But his calm eyes showed an unquestionable confidence. Then Ivan. Loki looked at Ivan, come back as soon as possible after the tea party. So that you can tell me what's going on over there. In fact, Ivan had no intention of coming back after Charlotte Lingling's tea party. This was all for Loki's consideration for his safety. So Ivan nodded and said, okay, wait until I come back. That's good. Loki laughed, then I wish you a safe journey. So they set off. Ivan boarded the carriage brought by Katakuri and others. As the carriage set off, the giant king gradually went farther and farther. This is not an ordinary carriage. The carriage was singing happily, and the horses pulling the carriage were not ordinary horses, but horse statues carved from jade, like enlarged chess pieces. They all have life. They are the product of Charlotte Linling using her soul fruit ability to give souls to dead things. They are magical creatures called homies. Because they are not real horses, they run at an astonishing speed, almost like a locomotive rushing across the vast land of the giants. At this speed, it shouldn't take long to reach the border of this country. Ivan retracted his gaze from the window and looked at the man sitting opposite him in the carriage. Katakuri is more than 5 meters tall, more than twice as tall as Ivan. Even when sitting, he is enough to easily look down on Ivan. He is also looking at Ivan. No matter what your purpose is, you'd better behave yourself when you arrive in Wanaku. After Loki left, Katakuri's tone towards Ivan could only be described as indifferent. The attitude changes so quickly. Ivan leaned back leisurely on the soft seat back. Is this the Charlotte family's way of entertaining guests? I just want you to not die in vain. Katakuri still looked calm. If you don't want to die a violent death, you'd better be obedient. Are you ordering me? Ivan raised his eyelids slightly. You can think so. Katakuri's eyes flashed, and an invisible spirit was roaring towards Ivan with him as the starting point. He wanted Ivan to behave himself. Otherwise, Mom sometimes wouldn't be reasonable, she would always have completely emotional moments. Even if he couldn't hurt this kid, it would be okay to let him know what the sky is high and the earth is thick. But Ivan sneered, and the same spirit also went towards Katakuri. The two spirits suddenly collided in the carriage. The whole carriage was shaking, and black lightning jumped freely in this narrow space. Katakuri's eyes were stunned. This kid actually has the domineering color. But immediately, his eyes became fierce. I want to see how far you can fight me. The strength of the conqueror's haki began to increase. Ivan chuckled, if you want to fight, then I will accompany you. The spirit also increased. At this time, the whole carriage began to tremble violently. Then, the carriage stopped suddenly. There was silence outside. The two were stunned at the same time. The people outside the carriage and homies, who was pulling the carriage, were stunned by their conqueror's haki at the same time. The two regretted it at the same time. In the giant palace, Robin was flipping through a book, but his sight seemed to be frozen. His hands mechanically turned the book, but his eyes did not move at all. Hey! Robin! If you are so reluctant, shouldn't you be more serious? The sooner you finish your studies here, the sooner you can see that boy. The girl suddenly woke up, and then looked back with a smile. Yet. Chapter 67. Katakuri did not come to the giant kingdom alone. There were some brothers and sisters who stayed behind on the boat on the coast, and there were also some servants and homies who landed with him. However, at this time, the collision of the domineering color between him and Ivan successfully made all the people who followed him faint. The convoy that was originally moving rapidly came to a complete stop at this time. Ivan and Katakuri, who got off the car, were both silent. They had gone too far. In desperation, the two could only wait for homies to wake up again and get rid of the weak period before they finally set off again. This time everything was peaceful. After all, neither Ivan nor Katakuri wanted to delay again. It took about 2 days for the convoy to arrive at the coast of the giant kingdom, where a huge ship was waiting. It was really huge. Although it was far smaller than the size of Moria's terrifying 3-masted sailing ship, it was already exaggeratedly large. The length of the ship exceeded 300 meters, and it could be called a mobile fortress on the sea. Katakuri-san. As soon as we stepped onto the deck of the ship, someone came to greet Katakuri. She was a tall woman. But she was definitely not pretty. She had a scar on her face, a long and sharp nose, and her hair was long, but the quality was not good. It felt quite dry. After seeing Katakuri, the woman was as happy as a child and almost jumped over to him. Bruli. Facing his enthusiastic sister, Katakuri just nodded slightly, very coldly and without any other response. But Ivan knew that Katakuri loved his brothers and sisters very much, and his cold appearance was just a protective color. Because of the tragedy of Bruli, the bamboo pole woman in front of him, Katakuri decided to be a perfect brother and never reveal any flaws to the enemy. Is everything okay? Katakuri asked. Nothing happened, said a man who was about the same size as Katakuri, only some giants came to trade with us, and we exchanged some specialties with them. So, did you return empty-handed this time too? Extremely tall, exceptionally strong. Bare-chested, wearing a cape, with orange hair that looked like a playing card with a spade pattern missing on both sides. Of course, Ivan also knew this guy. One of Katakuri's triplets, the fourth son of the Charlotte family, Charlotte Owen. It's not a complete failure. Anyway. Katakuri nodded gently, let's go back. He shouted to the homies on the deck, pull up the anchor and set sail. The homies began to move, and the big ship began to shake slowly, ready to set sail. What do you mean by not returning in vain? At the same time, Owen was a little surprised. He lowered his head. Also, who is this guy? How come an unfamiliar guy came back with Katakuri? Charlotte Bray looked at Ivan. Looks familiar. He is a friend of the giant prince, and he offered to represent the giants to attend his mother's tea party in Wanguo. He said he was looking for someone. Anyway, he now represents the giants. Representing the giant race. Owen looked down at Ivan. This is very suspicious. Bruli laughed like an old witch. He actually offered to attend a tea party. Does he have any conspiracy? Looking for someone? It must be just an excuse. Hey, kid. Owen asked directly in a rough voice, what is your purpose? Ivan looked up at the burly man in front of him calmly, are you interrogating me? Obviously, this guy was looking up at him, but with such a casual tone and such a calm look, Owen even felt that he was looking down at him. I just want to make sure my mom's tea party is not disturbed. Owen shouted angrily, you'd better be honest. Otherwise, I won't be polite. A scorching airflow suddenly emerged from his right hand, as if his fist had turned into magma, and the air around him was distorted. Owen is a superhuman heat fruit user, who has the ability to transfer heat and instantly heat objects. Owen. At this time, Katakuri held Owen's shoulder and said, don't mess around. Loki said that if this kid gets hurt, it will be like declaring war on the giants. Owen, who was originally aggressive, immediately lost his momentum after hearing what Katakuri said. If he really ruined the plan to win over the giants, his mother would definitely kill him. No need, Katakuri. Ivan suddenly said with a smile, why don't we just treat it as an entertainment program and have fun with it? Otherwise, the same thing will happen again in Wano country, and it will be even more troublesome. Don't worry, at least I won't tell Loki about what happened today. Hey, Katakuri. Is this guy looking down on me? Owen's body temperature soared instantly, and the whole person turned into a little sun, and the floor seemed to be burning. Since he is seeking his own death, don't stop him. Katakuri was silent for a moment. He knew what Ivan wanted to do. What exactly does this kid want to do? Is he looking for trouble? Or did Loki send him here to take advantage of the opportunity and want them, the Charlotte family, To give up that extravagant hope? Ivan certainly didn't know what Katakuri was thinking. His reason for doing this was very simple. First, he was simply unhappy with Owen's attitude. Second, he learned a new move and wanted to experiment with it, of course, referring to Katakuri. Third, to show his strength. The strong are respected no matter where they are, while the weak are despised even if they have the most solid backing. It's up to you. Katakuri took 2 steps back, but don't go too far. Since Ivan said so, Katakuri is not a coward. After all, as long as he doesn't cause much harm to this kid, will Loki really lead the entire giant kingdom to become enemies with the Charlotte family? Both sides understand each other's bottom line. Ha 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 ha. Don't worry, Katakuri. I will show mercy. Owen was overjoyed. He really didn't expect that this kid would be so ignorant of life and death. The giant raised his fists high, and amazing heat waves rippled from his fists, making Owen feel like he was going to be roasted dry. Boy! Make a move. Ivan said nothing, but chuckled and put his right hand on the hilt of the sword at his waist. Come on! Brother Owen! Show this kid some color! Bruli cheered and cheered for Owen. Katakuri didn't say anything. This kid is not weak, as can be seen from the previous Conqueror Haki confrontation. After all, Conqueror Haki cannot be cultivated, and it will increase with the user's strength. Of course, Katakuri's Conqueror Haki was not released to the limit at that time, and the accident happened. He didn't think Ivan was qualified to be compared with him. But if it was Owen, maybe the fight would be quite intense. The Spear of Elbaf Waiguo. The magnificent wave crossed the deck like a huge beam of light, instantly submerging Owen's tall body. Katakuri's eyes suddenly widened. Bruli's cheering suddenly stopped. Isn't this a good move? I went to the Giant Kingdom to learn it. Ivan carried Chu Shui on his shoulders and said leisurely, he is a person with special abilities, so let's go get him quickly. Don't worry, I've shown mercy. What did you do to my brother? Dang! Black lightning radiated everywhere. The black knife collided with the black trident, and black lightning radiated everywhere. Then make your move. Katakuri. Ivan was a little excited. This is the real show. Chapter 68. What happened just now? Charlotte Brune was still confused. Brother Owen was defeated by this kid? In just a moment, he was defeated by this kid? He was directly knocked into the water? Moreover, the kid used the same moves as his mother. And now, the kid actually fought with brother Katakuri, and he didn't even lose. The trident and the black blade kept colliding, and with the loud sound of clang, the black domineering arc kept jumping. It is worthy of being the highest masterpiece of the Charlotte family. Dazzling electric light jumped on Ivan's body, and invisible waves lingered on the blade in his hand. He is not at the same level as the big fool just now. Katakuri's eyes were solemn. This kid. He actually has this level of strength. No wonder Owen couldn't even react. Amazing power. Terrifying speed. Powerful slash. The level of armed color domineering is even stronger than his own. He was careless. When he was on the carriage, his domineering color was not stimulated to the limit. However, this is not a reason for him to hurt Owen. Fly across the floating boat. At this moment, Ivan slashed several times in an instant, like dancing. What a fast knife! But Katakuri's eyes flashed red, and his body broke into several pieces in an instant. At the same time, the trident in his hand rotated unhindered and stabbed Ivan. Nyotuan thrusts. Has he mastered the observation haki to foresee the future during this period? However, although the amount of armament haki is large and the hardness is very high, it is still just ordinary hardening. In the final analysis, it is because the observation haki is too strong, resulting in too few hits. Ivan retracted his sword and used the blade to deflect Katakuri's trident, but he himself was forced to one side by this amazing force. Sure enough, the strength is still above his own, even the gap in haki level cannot completely make up for it. Then, Katakuri's heavy punch came towards him. Katakuri's left hand turned into a square shape, dark. Thunder surged from Ivan's body, and his speed soared to the limit, turning into a flash of lightning and avoiding the punch. Waiguo. Ivan swung his sword. When dealing with Katakuri, a vacuum slash like dragon flash is not useful, and a large-scale attack like Waiguo is needed. A huge beam of light crossed the deck again. However, the next moment, Ivan, who had sheathed his sword at some point, suddenly drew his sword upwards. Dang! The blade blocked the trident that fell from the sky. It's really fast. Ivan sighed in his heart. Not only is it powerful, Katakuri's speed is also far beyond the observation of the naked eye. Fortunately, he is not slow either. Ishin! Katakuri's eyes flashed red. He was enveloped in a golden storm of slashing. Countless blades seemed to appear in the air, slicing his body synchronously. Katakuri was chopped into pieces almost instantly. Katakuri nii! Bruli couldn't help but scream. That brat! Such swordsmanship! It seems that they are swinging swords at the same time, but in the end, it is just one knife. Flowing glutinous rice balls. The solid deck suddenly turned into flowing white rice cakes, squirming to swallow Ivan, and at the same time, waves of rice cakes were directly raised around him. The glutinous rice fruit awakened. Can't this cut you? Ivan was shocked. However, it was not because of this flowing rice cake. He can even run on the sea. It was because of the horror of foreseeing the future. Can't Xin touch him with such a rapid slash? In this case, let me see the limit of foreseeing the future. The lightning on Ivan's body has jumped so much that he has disappeared in it, and his speed has increased to the limit at this moment. He is running. He is running wildly on the ground of rice cakes. This is what Owen, who was just pulled out of the sea by homies, saw was the golden flashes all over the deck. This dazzling electric light kept shuttling across the deck. Before the initial electric light dissipated, it drew out a series of tracks. For a moment, the deck was even drawn with a complex pattern by these tracks. Moreover, it was not just the tracks, but a storm suddenly arose around the electric light. Flying vortex cloud. Ivan's speed was so fast that it was difficult for the naked eye to catch it, but what was faster than him was his sword. The frantic and graceful dance of the blade formed a storm that flickered and moved on the deck. Because it was too fast, the after-images of the storm seemed to be connected together, and finally turned into a sea of slashing. This time, it was a real vortex cloud. The wind of slashing was blowing in every corner of the deck. Every space was being attacked by the blade. The Straw Hat Junior brother can use the fourth gear Snake Man to fight Katakuri, so why can't I? Isn't it just speed? Speed is what I am best at. Is this that guy? Owen felt his scalp tingling. If he faced this move, he would probably be chopped into minced meat in an instant, right? Katakuri. Even though he had always been confident in Katakuri, he couldn't help but exclaim at this moment. In fact, Katakuri's eyes had become extremely serious. He couldn't just hide, and couldn't just use his abilities to dodge. Changing the body also took time. Even if he could foresee the future, the opponent could change his moves and attack again while he was making changes for the future. With this kid's attack speed, he would get beaten if he just changed. So, he had to fight back. Nyotuan chanted. Countless translucent circles appeared around Katakuri, and then the next moment, with his order, black rice cake arms shot out from these translucent circles, attacking in all directions with him as the center. From a distance, it looked like a golden ocean wrapped around a black reef. Dang! Thunder exploded in the storm. Then, dang 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 dang. The thunder continued to roar, like firecrackers. Ivan finally stopped. His body was wrapped in black ribs. However, the Susanoo in its initial state looked a bit miserable and had broken into pieces. Ivan wiped his mouth. He was hit by many punches. It was not easy for him to dodge such a range attack. Fortunately, it was far less painful than Rayleigh's fist. With the constantly repairing Susanoo as a buffer, he only suffered some superficial injuries. Katakuri's fist storm also stopped. His leather jacket was also tattered at this time, and there were several wounds on his body, with blood flowing out. But these wounds were not deep. After all, such an ultra-high frequency of swinging the sword will inevitably result in a weakening of the power of the slash. Ivan's mouth corners slightly raised. This guy is super strong. No wonder the Straw Hat Junior brother had to unlock the blood lock to take him down. Susanoo's regular moves are useless and can't hit at all. Unless the fourth stage is opened again. Or, it seems that it is time to use a new move. The ribs surrounding Ivan were repaired in an instant, and then suddenly grew, turning into two black Susanos, with four hands holding two swords. Surrounded by thunder and domineering, the two swords were raised high. Wait! However, before Ivan could launch any moves, Katakuri spoke first. That's it. The man's eyes were filled with shock. Do you want to blow up this ship? He saw the future, a future he couldn't believe. How could such a thing happen? This guy. Chapter 69. And, is it over? Bruley stared at the deck in a daze. The kid had dispersed the huge half-body warrior that covered his whole body, and the two swords that exuded an ominous aura had also dissipated simultaneously. Is it over? Brother Katakuri didn't even get the upper hand from this kid, and he took the initiative to call for a stop. She didn't realize that her hands were tightly clenched together at this time, and fine sweat emerged from her palms, but her palms did not seem hot at all, but instead were cold. Brother Katakuri, what kind of future did you see? As the sister who knows Katakuri best, Bruley believes that her most admired brother will never end this battle easily. After all, Owen is injured. He must have seen some future. So, what kind of future did he see? Ivan calmly put the knife back into the sheath and looked at Katakuri with a solemn look in his eyes. He didn't believe that if there was a chance to beat him up, Katakuri would be willing to stop just like that. This man must have seen a future he didn't want to see. So, the move that I haven't used yet seems to be quite powerful? It's very subtle. Although I haven't used that move yet, I have already felt its effect. Katakuri. Is this the end? Owen was the only one who knew nothing. He was very dissatisfied, the winner hasn't been decided yet. Let's stop here. Katakuri looked at Ivan deeply, if we continue to fight, this ship will not be able to hold on, and you will be affected too. I don't care. Ivan said casually, but now you can trust me that I won't tell Loki, right? Owen gritted his teeth and glared at Ivan. He didn't suffer any loss at all, and he and Katakuri were in a close fight. What was there to tell? However, after being angry, Owen had to admit that this man was powerful. He was powerful enough to be compared with Katakuri. Anyway, Katakuri used Awakening to turn the trident in his hand back into rice cakes and put it back into his body, and then said, let's return. So the ship returned and headed towards the Charlotte family's base, the Wanguo Sea. It should be said that the effect of the previous battle was completely revealed. Along the way, both Owen and Bruley kept their distance from Ivan. They all understood one thing, if even Katakuri and Ivan were deadlocked, then only their mothers would have to take action personally to take this kid down. Such a strong man deserves their respect. Therefore, it can be said that there was no trouble along the way. 2 weeks passed in a flash, and the ship finally sailed to Wanguo. Wanguo is a country composed of 3. This large country consisting of more than 10 islands is led by Charlotte Linlin, the head of the Charlotte family. It is the most famous pirate country in the New World. This sea area is managed by the Charlotte family like an iron barrel. At least when the big ship sails in this sea area, Ivan's observation Haki can easily sense the den mushi lurking in the water. Just wanting to sneak into the sea area is an extremely difficult task. So, it is better to be invited in as a guest. Ivan thought. The big ship soon stopped at the port of Cake Island, the center of the world. Someone came to greet him. This is Prince Loki's friend, Mr. Ivan, who came on behalf of the giant kingdom, right? The strange man with a tall hat and a long tongue, the eldest son of the Charlotte family, Sparrow greeted Ivan with a smile. Welcome, Mom can't wait to see you, and is waiting for you now. Really? It's my honor. Ivan's smile was reserved and gentle. Please lead the way. Please follow me. He took Ivan and his 3 brothers and sisters who had returned to a huge carriage. It was also pulled by Homais. After Sparrow's order, the carriage ran forward like crazy. Leaving the port is the city. The area of Cake Island is not small, and there is a very prosperous city on the island. Ivan looked out through the window, and the people on the street cast respectful eyes on the carriage and took the initiative to make way. What Ivan saw were basically neatly dressed people and bustling streets. More importantly, almost all the people had happy smiles on their faces. This is incomparable to all the countries he has been to. Is Wanguo really a country ruled by pirates? It's amazing. Ivan couldn't help but exclaim, I have never seen such a prosperous country. Because my mother's dream is a fantasy country where all races can live in harmony. Sparrow said with a smile, in this country, people don't need to work for rewards, don't need to fear pirate attacks, don't need to worry about government exploitation, everything is done by homies, they only need to give 1 month of life to their mother every 6 months, and they can enjoy the happiest life. Giving 1 month of life every 6 months, 2 months a year, and nearly 2 years in 10 years. At first glance, it's a lot. But you have to know that the average life expectancy in this sea has never been high. The member states still have to bear the heavy burden of the name of heavenly gold, and the non-member states are often reduced to the paradise of pirates, thugs, mafia, and human traffickers. Compared with them, this country is really like living in an ideal country. The main reason is that Charlotte Lingling's ability is too cheating. The homies who can work without sleep have completely assumed the task of being exploited. Whether this is good or bad, it is difficult for Yvonne to comment, but for the people living in this country, it should be the best, right? We sincerely hope that the giants can also become a member of this big family. Perospero said sincerely, I hope you can help us convey to Prince Loki, Mr. Yvonne. Of course, I will tell you the truth. Yvonne still smiled reservedly. After passing through the city and the dense forest where many tree homies lived, the palace decorated with candy colors finally appeared in front of Yvonne. After getting off the carriage and entering the palace under the guidance of Perospero, Yvonne finally saw the top predator in this sea, one of the 3 major pirates who dominated the New World, Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin. Mom, Mom! Is that you? Yvonne. At this time, the Queen of Nations was lying on her wide throne. The loose pink dress on her body could not cover her increasingly fat body. It seemed that she was a little greedy. Saliva flowed from the corners of her mouth, and when it fell on the ground, it actually corroded the marble floor one by one. Prince Loki's messenger. The man who makes Katakuri helpless. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Chapter 70. This was the first time Yvonne had seen the world's top masters. Even though Charlotte Lingling did nothing and showed no hostility, Yvonne still felt a majestic aura. It had nothing to do with anything else, it was just pure strength. I'm really curious. Charlotte Lingling sat up and looked down at Yvonne. How did you become friends with Loki so quickly? I don't think this is something difficult to understand, right? Yvonne said calmly, when you want someone to be sincere to you, you should be sincere to him first. Only if you express friendship first will the other party express friendship as well, right? Mom, Mom! Charlotte Lingling laughed, what a childish way of saying it, but I don't hate it. Family is the most precious thing in this world. I love my family deeply, so my children also love me deeply. Deeply love. Ivan's expression was indifferent, but he was laughing in his heart. You mean traitor? Will you choose to be with your beloved Lola, or will you choose to betray your husband, Chiffon, and Praline? I was taken care of by Elbaf when I was little, so I always wanted to repay them. Charlotte Linling's words could almost be described as lying with open eyes. Haven't you already repaid Elbaf? You almost wiped out the village of Helding and his people, and the old hero of the giant tribe also died tragically at your hands. Yvonne still had no expression on his face. So, I also want them to join my family. Charlotte Lingling said with longing, this is my dream, to build a great country where all races can coexist harmoniously. A huge family. There are only a few races left, and I hope to be recognized by the giants. As she spoke, she lowered her body and looked down at Yvonne, whose huge face was full of oppression in the shadows. Can you understand? Yvonne. This is my dream. Just like what you said, only sincerity can be exchanged for sincerity. I am very sincere. I have never been reluctant to express my kindness over the years, but I always get no response. I think we are just missing a middleman. At this point, she looked straight at Yvonne. Yvonne just chuckled, of course, this is one of the reasons why I came here. Loki asked me to tell him about what happened here. Mom, Mom! Great! This is what I want. Charlotte Lingling laughed, then go, Yvonne, there are still 3 days before the tea party, enough time for you to take a good look at this country that I am proud of. Then, tell the truth in front of Loki. It can be seen that Charlotte Lingling is really proud of this country, and she didn't even ask Yvonne to help say a few good words. Perospero, you take Yvonne to visit all the nations. Charlotte Lingling looked at Perospero, who had been standing respectfully and silently since he came in, treat him well. Don't let me hear any news of anyone harassing him. Yes, mother, please leave it to me. Perospero bowed respectfully. Then I won't be polite. Yvonne didn't refuse. It's good to kill time. So, the journey of the world began. After Yvonne left with Perospero, Katakuri came to Charlotte Linlin with a bunch of desserts. Are you saying that the little brat is stronger than you? Charlotte Lingling asked while eating dessert with her mouth wide open. Although I am unwilling to accept it, I have indeed seen a future that I do not want to see. Katakuri said calmly, he used the ultimate move of the giants. Mom. Is that so? Charlotte Lingling laughed, then I'm even more interested in him. By the way, Katakuri, have you found out about his relationship with Nico Robin? I didn't ask. Katakuri shook his head, but we should have parted ways a long time ago, right? He went to the giant kingdom to learn the moves of the giants, and he left alone. Really? It doesn't matter. Anyway, we are still a long way from finding all the stones. We can wait until Bryn grows up. Compared with Nico Robin, the friendship of the giants is obviously more important. Charlotte Lingling thought thoughtfully, what do you think about taking that kid into the family? Mom, it's up to you to decide. Katakuri said calmly. That boy is only 17 or 18 years old, right? Charlotte Lingling said to herself, about the same age as Garrett. Katakuri, call Garrett over. Yes. Of course, Yvonne didn't know about Charlotte Lingling's sudden idea. He had already started his journey to the world under the leadership of Perospero. The world is a large country, with Cake Island as the main body and a total of 34 islands distributed around it. Each island basically corresponds to a certain desert or material and is garrisoned by a minister. Each island has different landscapes, different products, and each minister has a different style. In just 3 days, Yvonne took a rough tour of the entire world like a horse-drawn tour. It must be said that Charlotte Lingling's orders are absolute in this country. Any minister of the Charlotte family who meets along the way dare not show any bad face to Yvonne, even the unruly Cracker and the arrogant and cruel Smoothie. The 3-day tour allowed Yvonne to further deepen his understanding of this country. Charlotte Lingling's arrogance is not without reason. Living in this country, except for ordinary people, in addition to ordinary humans, there are also fishmen, mermen, long-armed people, long-legged people, snake-headed people, dwarf people, three-eyed people, and mixed bloods of various ethnic groups. Even Charlotte Lingling's own children are mixed bloods of many major races. Except for the giants, the Lunalia, and the Bears Bakeria, almost all races in the world can be found in the 10,000 countries. And the amazing thing is that all these ethnic groups live in harmony in this country. There seems to be no difference between them. They are as close as a family without distinction between you and me. This is not an easy thing. Charlotte Lingling is by no means a brainless person as shown in the original work. Then, the day of the tea party arrived. Cake Island has been decorated with lights and colors, and all kinds of clouds, flowers, wind chimes and homies are flying in the sky, singing in unison to celebrate the arrival of this day. Perospero was very busy that day, but he still found Yvonne in his busy schedule. The guy smiled, Mr. Yvonne, let me introduce someone to you. This is my sister, he pointed to the woman following behind him, Garrett. Chapter 71. Garrett. Yvonne looked at the woman behind Perospero. She should be about the same age as him, with dark pink hair, bright yellow eyes, fair skin, and bright red lips. With delicate facial features and a curvy figure under the red skirt, this woman can be described as beautiful. While Yvonne was looking at the girl, Garrett was also looking at Yvonne. A few days ago, her mother called her over and told her that the family wanted to absorb Yvonne through marriage, and the person chosen to marry Yvonne was herself. Garrett had no opinion on this. Like most of her brothers and sisters, her family and her mother were the first in her heart. Since it was for the family and since it was her mother's decision, Garrett would abide by it unconditionally. But even so, Garrett still hoped that her future husband would be better. And the so-called excellence is nothing more than strength, appearance, wealth, and power. In this sea, having strength is equivalent to having wealth and power. The guy's strength is beyond doubt. Brother Katakuri, who is known as the family's greatest masterpiece, can't defeat him in a short time, and he is even the same age as himself. It is hard to predict how strong he will become in the future. In terms of strength, Garrett couldn't be more satisfied. Then, it's the appearance. Garrett looked at Yvonne carefully. Then, no matter how picky she was, she had to admit that this was a beautiful boy who was rare in the entire sea. He was the kind of handsome man that if he didn't come on behalf of the giants, her mother would probably abandon her current husband and force him to marry. Garrett nodded gently. She couldn't be more satisfied. It's better to say that she should thank her mother for choosing such a husband for herself. What is this woman looking at? Yvonne frowned slightly. This woman looked at him almost intently. Although there are all kinds of strange people in this sea, the attribute of being a flower maniac is still rare. Is she charmed by me? Although he was complaining in his heart, Ivan still nodded politely to the woman. Hello. Garrett nodded in response. What does it mean? Ivan frowned again. Is that so impolite? But Perospero already understood what his sister meant. Nodding meant satisfaction. His smile got wider. Come to think of it, the only island I haven't taken you to is Cake Island, but I'm very busy today, so let Garrett take you around the island. Ivan raised his eyebrows. Something was wrong. But he couldn't say anything. After all, the guest should follow the host's wishes. As one of the most important cotters of the Charlotte family, Perospero was of course very busy today. The eldest brother of the Charlotte family left in a hurry. Only Ivan and Garrett were left staring at each other. So, what is going on? Ivan already had a guess in his mind. Both Perospero and Garrett's attitudes were not right. Mom hopes you will join our Charlotte family. Garrett also had a resolute character. She swung her dark purple feather cape heroically and took a step forward in her stiletto high heels. She was only slightly shorter than Ivan and was unusually tall. The girl put her hands on her full chest and said seriously, for this, you and I will marry. Ivan's mouth twitched. It was really Charlotte Linland's style. She would marry whoever she wanted to win over. If she wanted to bring Fishman Island under her command, she would marry the Sun Pirates and marry Praline to Aladdin, the vice-captain of the pirate group. If she wanted to bring Beak under her command, she would marry Chiffon to him. If she wanted to win over the giants, she would marry Lola to Prince Loki. Looking at the serious-looking beautiful girl, Ivan said with interest, don't you have any objection to this? Obviously, you are just being used as a tool to win me over. Objection? Why? Garrett was surprised by Ivan's words. This is my mother's order. This is for the family. It's a matter of course. Besides, I don't hate you. Not annoying. Ivan chuckled, if I remember correctly, this is the first time we met. Do you know me? Of course I understand. The girl said. Oh? What do you know about me? Garrett said seriously, you are very strong, and very handsome. Ivan raised his eyebrows, that's all. Garrett asked back, isn't that enough? Is that enough? Ivan wanted to laugh. Why not? Garrett said as a matter of course, isn't it that when you like someone, you admire his ability or appearance at the beginning? Ivan thought about it and it made sense. Besides, it's really hard for anyone to hate hearing such remarks. Since it is needed by the family and I like you very much, why should I refuse? The girl had a reason, so, Ivan, what is your answer? Sorry. Ivan shook his head, thank you for your love, but I don't like you. I already have someone I like. It doesn't matter who the competitor is. The girl took a step forward, her chest almost touching Ivan's. Ivan could even feel her temperature, I will make you fall in love with me. What a confident woman. Don't let Hancock hear this, or you will be killed. Ivan took 2 steps back and kept a distance from the girl, come on, take me around. He didn't really care. If nothing unexpected happened, he would leave Wanguo after today, and maybe they would never meet again. What was there to care about? He didn't care, but Garrett was serious. The girl walked side by side with Ivan, introducing him to the scene on Cake Island while trying to get closer to Ivan. It can be seen that she really regarded marrying Ivan as an important task to be completed. While the two were strolling on the island, guests for the tea party had already arrived. Charlotte Linland's tea party was certainly not just as simple as inviting friends to come over for tea. The Charlotte family is not just a pirate group, but also represents a huge country. Since it is a country, there is trade, communication, and exchange. This tea party was set up to coordinate the relations between all parties related to the Charlotte family. At this time, at the port, several big men came together. Ha 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 ha. I heard that the Giant Kingdom also sent people this time. Isn't it? Is Lingling really going to get what she wants? That's not good. Is the battle for hegemony in the New World really going to enter a new stage? Ha ha ha. Isn't that even better? Big news is coming. Several people were talking and laughing as they walked. The most eye-catching one was, of course, the White Bird Man in a formal suit. These guys were all well-known underground giants in the New World, and the Birdman was Morgans, the president of the World Economic News Agency, who was very well known worldwide. The Morgans that Yvonne was looking for. Chapter 72. The big underground forces of the New World are here. Big news Morgans, the shipping king Umit, Fukushin Lu Field, the funeral house tycoon Draco Peklo, the hidden master Gibson, the last woman who looks dignified and beautiful, the queen of Happy Street, Stussy. Welcome everyone. The arrival of these big shots must of course be greeted by the senior members of the family. Sparrow came up with a smile and said, "Mom is waiting for you." Ha 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 ha. Sparrow. The Birdman Morgans was the first to come forward. He laughed and said, "I heard that the Giant Kingdom sent someone?" "Where? I have never interviewed a giant before." "You are really well informed." Sparrow was a little surprised, but not too surprised. Morgan's intelligence ability was not inferior to that of the Charlotte family, and it could even be said that it was better. Ha ha ha, mainly the whole world is spreading it. Morgans didn't care, so where is the person? How about letting me interview him? The world reconciliation between the Giant Kingdom and the Charlotte family is big news that will shock the whole world no matter how you think about it. Don't worry, you will see it soon. Sparrow kept it a secret. Allah, Peros, do you have to be on guard against us too? The beautiful woman, Stussy, smiled softly with her hands covering her mouth. It's not that I'm on guard, but he's not here right now. Sparrow smiled, anyway, please follow me first, the venue is ready, and everyone can take their seats. Ha 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 ha. Let's go. Morgans didn't care, I'm also looking forward to the ending of Lingling and the Giant Kingdom story. But Sparrow didn't notice that his smile was somewhat meaningful. Yes. Stussy followed with a chuckle, it's really hard not to be curious, what will happen next? Several people followed Sparrow to the venue of the tea party. At this time, Yvonne was strolling on Cake Island with Garrett. Almost every one of the 35 islands of the 10,000 kingdoms has its own characteristics. The characteristics of Cake Island are just like its name. It is basically in the shape of a cake, and even the colors match. From a distance, it looks like a huge cake. This is probably the result of Charlotte Lingling using her ability to transform the island. Not only the appearance, cakes can be seen everywhere on this island, and even many buildings are made of cakes. But other than that, this island has no other characteristics, and it is similar to the other islands. After a brief walk around, Yvonne asked Garrett to take him to the venue. Maybe the person he wants to see has already arrived. Brother Katakuri said that you came to Cake Island to meet someone. On the way, Garrett talked to Yvonne. She was always trying to find topics to talk about, but she was not a warm and cheerful person. She was rather cold. Therefore, the collision of coldness and enthusiasm made her cute in a different way. The person you want to see is probably not a family member. After all, you have been doing everything here for so many days. Is he the guest who will come to the tea party this time? This should be none of your business. On the contrary, Ivan's attitude can only be described as cold. Whether it is a man or a woman who is being rejected, the most important thing is to cut the Gordian knot quickly and never let the other party think that she still has a chance, which will only cause more trouble for both parties. Of course it's my business, you're my future husband, your business is of course my business. Garrett didn't care about Ivan's attitude at all, in her opinion, it was only a matter of time before this man fell in love with her, as long as it doesn't harm the interests of the family, I can help you. Yvonne couldn't help laughing. Don't talk nonsense, I'll leave after today, and we won't meet again. I can go with you. Garrett said without hesitation, family doesn't have to be tied to one place. Even if they are thousands of miles apart, family is still family. Haha. Yvonne just chuckled. There was nothing to say to this woman. She simply carried out Charlotte Lingling's orders without hesitation. No matter what she said, it was just a waste of words. Completely ignoring Garrett's chattering, Yvonne quickly followed her to the venue of the tea party. The venue of this tea party was in the center of the forest outside the palace. An area was cleared in the depths of the dense forest and a large number of flowers were planted. Every flower was singing loudly, and there were balloons, clouds, and lights flying in the sky, singing in harmony. It was like coming to a dreamland in a fairy tale. There were round tables placed among the flowers, and many guests were already seated. The bigwigs from all over the world talked freely, proud of receiving the invitation from Charlotte Lingling. This was the scene that Yvonne saw when he came here. And the surprise has just arrived. Mr. Yvonne. You're just in time. Sparrow waved at Ivan from a distance, someone wants to meet you. Ivan just glanced over there, and joy immediately appeared in his eyes. He saw the birdman following Sparrow. Morgans! Isn't he here? He stepped over without hesitation and walked directly in front of these people. Oh? I think I've seen this boy on the wanted poster. Stussy looked as if he had suddenly realized something. Ivan glanced at this woman. She looked like the queen of Fun Street, but she was actually a spy for CP. She looked like a spy for CP, but she was actually a spy for Vegapunk. He, I helped publish his wanted poster. Morgans looked at Ivan and laughed, so, Peros, what do you mean we want to see him? Sparrow smiled, because Mr. Ivan is the envoy from the Giant Kingdom. What? Are you kidding us, Sparrow? Fu Shen Lu Field was surprised, you said a human imp is the messenger of the giants. Mr. Ivan is a close friend of the giant Prince Loki. Sparrow shrugged, he came to investigate for his friend. No, besides that, there is a more important purpose. Ivan's eyes were burning. President Morgans, can we talk alone? I have a big news for you. Big news. Stussy moved closer to Ivan, what kind of news is it? But before she could say anything, a figure suddenly inserted itself between her and Ivan. It was Garrett. The woman calmly blocked Stussy's way. Oh? I see. Stussy was slightly startled, then smiled meaningfully, it's really Lingling's style. He, big news. Morgans looked at Ivan, then I can't refuse, let's go, boy, let me hear what you want to say. He turned and walked into the depths of the forest. Ivan followed with a smile. Seeing this, Garrett also wanted to follow, but was stopped by Sparrow, don't disturb them at this time, it will only backfire. The girl was speechless, but she stayed where she was. Morgans walked directly into the depths of the forest, a place where there were no homies. So young man, what big news do you have? The world's #1 paparazzi looked at Ivan with a smile. Ivan said, I have a plan that can subvert the world. I wonder if President Morgans is interested in it. Subvert the world? Morgans was slightly stunned. Then. Ha. How funny. He actually said he would subvert the world. Morgans laughed loudly, even holding his belly and leaning against a big tree, this is really hard to help but listen. But. After he said but, Morgan's smile faded slightly, and he looked up at Ivan, young man, before you tell me about this plan, shouldn't you prove to me that you have the ability to live long enough to carry out this plan? Ivan frowned when he heard this, what do you mean? Oh, you don't know this yet. The government knows you are in Wanguo, and they have sent out a terrifying team to catch you. You will probably run into them once you leave Wanguo. Morgan said with a grin. Chapter 73. I originally wanted to ask you what else you have done besides the attack on the G14 base, which made the government mobilize so much force after knowing your whereabouts this time. Morgan spread his hands, but since you have something more powerful to say, let's just wait until then. So. Ivan nodded in understanding, you already knew I was here, and the government also knew I was here. Lingling Swanguo is tolerant and inclusive. No matter what race or origin, as long as you are willing to pay her your lifespan, you can get protection. Morgans winked at Ivan, it would be strange if there were no informants or government spies here, right? That's true. The Wano country occupied by Kaido is much more secretive than the Wanguo. Did the government mobilize troops? The biggest thing I have done since I went to sea for so long is to attack the G14 base, but since Morgans is curious about what else I have done, it means that it is definitely not just this. In other words, it can only be related to 5 years ago. Did he realize that he might be the attacker, or did he realize that he was the escaped slave? Is it really okay to tell me these things? Ivan said calmly. Because I'm really looking forward to it. Morgans was walking around in front of Ivan like a person with ADHD, with his wings clenched in front of his chest. What on earth did you do? What are you going to do next? I'm looking forward to all this. I'm sure I won't be able to sleep tonight. So, don't die, Ivan, don't die next time. If you die like this, I won't be able to sleep for many nights. What a crazy guy. He obviously wants to hear what I want to say, but now he won't listen. Is he trying to prove that he has the ability to cooperate with him? Ha. Anyway, I'm looking forward to your performance. Laughing loudly, Morgans ran back. Ivan frowned slightly as he looked at the man's back. Trouble. It is not difficult to escape when you know that the government's attack is imminent. It seems that no one in the world can stop me from leaving here with the ghost ninja. But if that's the case, Morgans probably won't help. So, I still have to perform a little. In this case, I have to find out the specific situation on the government's side first. And if I want to figure this out, I have to ask another guy for help. Ivan walked back slowly. Morgans hopped back to the venue, but before he stepped into the venue, he saw a beautiful woman leaning against a tree, smiling and waiting for his return. Morgans didn't care about the woman waiting here at this time. He walked up to her with a smile. Are you anxious? So, what did the boy talk to you about, Morgans? The Queen of Happy Street, Morgans' old acquaintance Stussy asked softly with a smile. I'm really curious. Ha 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 ha, I guess so. Morgans laughed and said without hesitation, he said he has an incredible plan and wants my help. Plan? Stussy raised her eyebrows slightly. What kind of plan? I didn't listen. Morgans spread his hands. After all, no matter what the plan is, it doesn't matter, right? Besides, he chuckled, the government pays too much attention to that kid. If he listens, it might be a big trouble, right? The beautiful woman covered her mouth and laughed softly. You are so cunning, Morgans. However, it is true that this time, the government sent out. Time goes back to a little while ago. At the top of the Red Earth continent, Marijoa. The 5 elders received the latest news from the 10,000 nations. That kid appeared in Wanguo. He seemed to have been to the giant kingdom before. 5 old men gathered here for a young man. It is said that he went there to learn the moves of the giants, and even Katakuri couldn't do anything to him. Isn't this a matter of course? Even Sakazuki was injured by him, so what does a mere Charlotte Katakuri matter? It doesn't matter what happened. Now it seems that the boy is indeed the slave who escaped 5 years ago. The only clue related to the attack has finally appeared. That's right, we must not let this kid go. No matter the cost. Let the Navy go. Arrest him as soon as the kid leaves Wanguo. If Charlotte Linlin wants to protect him, then as a last resort, it doesn't matter if we go to war with the Charlotte family. The 5 elders have made a decision. The attack 5 years ago is still a nightmare for many celestial dragons. Thousands of celestial dragons died in that attack, which was something that the world government had never experienced 800 years ago. In order to find out the cause of the attack, even if it is just a possible clue, the world government will do anything for it. Cake Island. Ivan slowly returned to the venue. Miss Garrett, who had been waiting for him, came over first. The cold and beautiful girl was a little curious. What happened? Morgans has been back a long time ago. I was just thinking about something. Ivan said lightly. He glanced casually at the venue and saw the underground giants of the New World sitting together, chatting and laughing. Ivan took a closer look at the beautiful woman. If you want to know the arrangement of the world government, you have to start with her. Stussy is not young anymore. Garrett said faintly, she and my mother have been friends for a long time. Nico is really sharp. Ivan's mouth twitched. So, is this Stussy replacing Miss Bacon's identity? Active in the New World as a former member of the Rocks Pirates? Maybe even her identity in CP0 is the same. Then, what kind of deal did Miss Bacon make with Vegapunk for this? Did the little white beard come from this? Ivan didn't know, and now was not the time to delve into this matter. But I do want to find time to talk to Stussy. Mom, Mom. Everyone, the tea party is about to begin, how are you? While thinking, Charlotte Lingling had already appeared, and she came out with a group of family cotters. The venue immediately rang with endless greetings. Mom, Mom. Drinking tea, eating desserts, and chatting with family, this is the purpose of my annual tea party. Charlotte Lingling laughed. Well, now the tea party begins. Everyone, speak freely. Mom, Mom. The atmosphere instantly became lively. Then, Ivan looked at Charlotte Lingling and waved at him. Ivan, come here and sit at the same table with me. So, all eyes were focused on Ivan. Chapter 74. Who is this guy? This is the first impression of most guests when they see Ivan sitting next to Charlotte Linlin. Only a few guests recognized Ivan as a rookie pirate who had caused a big fuss in the West Flower Country and whose bounty has now reached 100 million Baileys. Although Yvonne has never said that he is a pirate, whoever the world government says is a pirate is a pirate. Is such a guy worthy of such warm treatment from Big Mom? The guests were puzzled. A bounty of 100 million Baileys is of course amazing in the 4 seas, and it is almost the highest level. But if it is placed in paradise, it can only be called a super rookie. In this new world, a bounty of 100 million Baileys is not even the average level of the cadres of several dominant pirate groups. So, at this time, Charlotte Linlin smiled and introduced Yvonne. This kid is Yvonne. He is my most distinguished guest today. Most distinguished? The guests present were even more dumbfounded. What kind of identity is this kid that Big Mom actually used this adjective? You know, there are even kings of several countries and many underground giants in the New World at the venue. You may be curious about why this is the case. The reason is very simple. Charlotte Lingling laughed. Yvonne is a friend of Prince Loki of the Giant Kingdom. He is speaking on behalf of the giants. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience fell silent. The Giant Kingdom. That is recognized as the world's #1 power. Is this kid actually the envoy of the giants? As a human being, he became an envoy of the giants. I'm afraid his relationship with the giant prince cannot be explained by ordinary good friends. So, Yvonne is my best friend. Charlotte Lingling laughed loudly. Whoever is his enemy is my enemy. Ivan's mouth twitched. Charlotte Lingling was really cunning. She just wanted to spread the news that the giants had reconciled with the 10,000 nations and even sent envoys to increase her influence. As for whoever is her enemy is her enemy. Yvonne didn't believe a word of it. Could it be that Charlotte Lingling would help her fight against the government's punitive forces in the future? Mom, Mom! I'm so happy. Charlotte Lingling sat down and looked down at Yvonne. Yvonne, it shouldn't be a problem if you tell others about these things, right? Isn't it funny to say it now? Yvonne said lightly, I don't care. This is not a bad thing. Pero Sparrow, who was sitting opposite Yvonne, said with a smile, if the news that you are a friend of the giants and your mother spreads, you will have less trouble, Yvonne. If I can really solve my own troubles and destroy the world government, I don't mind playing the good friend game with you for the rest of my life, but, with you? Yvonne thought. Anyway, I will tell Loki the truth about everything that happened here. Yvonne said directly. This is what I need you to do. By the way, Yvonne. Charlotte Lingling looked at Garrett, who was not qualified to sit at this table and was able to sit next to him because of Yvonne. How are you getting along with Garrett? Very annoying. Yvonne said bluntly, not caring about Garrett's ugly face, I'm not interested in her at all, don't do boring things. Katakuri, who was also sitting across the table, had a dangerous look in his eyes. This kid actually looked down on her sister. Mom, Mom! However, Charlotte Lingling herself didn't care about it at all, and even laughed out loud, don't rush to say that, Yvonne, spend more time with Garrett, maybe you will change your mind about her. I won't force you. All my sons-in-law are very satisfied with their wives. Really? She really wasn't talking nonsense. Regardless of whether her daughters like the husbands she has appointed, at least the sons-in-law really like their wives in arranged marriages. Becky likes Chiffon, Aladdin likes Praline, and even the 2 failed examples of arranged marriages, Loki and Sanji, both fell in love with Lola and Bryn at first sight. No wonder, after all, they are being won over, so of course they have to be satisfied. In this regard, Charlotte Linlin is quite pure in love. Mom, I won't let you down. Garrett gave her mother a military order. She knew what the consequences would be if she didn't complete her mother's order. Yvonne might not care, and her mother would find him a new marriage partner, but she would be in trouble. Yvonne didn't say anything. Anyway, he would probably leave tomorrow, so what's the use of saying more? If nothing unexpected happens, Charlotte Lingling will regret wanting her daughter to marry her soon. The tea party began. While Yvonne was eating and drinking and chatting with Charlotte Lingling, his ghost ninjas had already started to act. At this time, the guards in the palace should be the most empty, and it is the best opportunity to get the text of the signpost history. If I remember correctly, the stone in Charlotte Lingling's hand was stored in her bedroom. There should be no surveillance inside. Although the ghost ninjas are not very intelligent, they can still complete simple tasks such as finding a stone and copying the contents on it. Yvonne looked around and saw that Bruley had also come to the tea party and had no time to peek in the mirror, which meant that the last variable also disappeared. There should be no problem. The tea party is not just a meal together. As mentioned earlier, this is an event organized by Charlotte Lingling to deepen the connection between her friends. After lunch, it is the stage of drinking tea and talking about things. Of course, Yvonne has nothing to talk about with these people. He just stood up after a few cups of tea, and said to Garrett, who was eager to try, "Don't follow me, I'm going to the bathroom." That made the woman give up the idea of following. Walking through the venue, when passing by Stussy, who was chatting with some noble ladies, Yvonne approached her inadvertently, and whispered something in her ear at the moment of passing by. Stussy's face changed slightly, but as an excellent spy, she did not show any strange color, but said apologetically, "Sorry, I suddenly remembered that there are some work matters that I haven't arranged for my subordinates. I'll make a phone call first." Of course, the noble ladies had no objection. Stussy then left the venue slowly, and then suddenly accelerated deep into the forest. Finally, under a big tree, she saw the handsome boy. "Ah, young Yvonne." Stussy returned to her seductive look and walked towards Yvonne in a cat-like manner. "What do you mean? What are you saying about Vegapunk in someone's ear?" Chapter 75. Stussy is certainly a very beautiful woman. She has short, slightly curly blonde hair, and her eyes are blue, similar to Robin, as brilliant as gemstones. Her makeup is an upgraded version of Garrett's, with heavy makeup and extraordinary beauty. She wears a white hat with flowers, a pink dress and a white shawl. She wears blue high heels with bows on them. She carries a handbag with her fingers and toes painted with bright nail polish, which makes her look beautiful and elegant. Her contradictory temperament makes her even more attractive. When such a woman approaches with a charming expression, there should not be many men in the world who can remain calm. But Yvonne didn't even raise his eyelids. He knew very well in his heart that although this woman looked extremely calm on the surface, she was probably in a state of confusion. "I don't understand at all." Stussy's eyes were as charming as silk, and her tall and plump body leaned towards Yvonne softly. "Are you trying to attract the attention of Big Sister with strange words? Then you succeeded. I like interesting children the most. If you come any closer, I will think you are going to attack me." Yvonne leaned on his hands, crossed his chest, and said leisurely, "Although I am also somewhat curious about the strength of the government's agents, but now, I want to talk about business." "Ah, what is a government agent?" "Big Sister, I don't understand either." Stussy laughed, but in the end, she didn't continue to approach Yvonne, but her voice became more and more annoying, as if it was mixed with a few pounds of sugar. "Don't play dumb." Yvonne looked at the woman. "Stussy, your last name should be Bakingam, right?" The beautiful woman's pupil shrank, and the sweet smile on her face finally disappeared bit by bit. Every word Yvonne said next was like a knife stabbing her heart. The first successful product of the cloning experiment conducted by MADS, a research institute led by Vegapunk, who would have thought that the famous Queen of Happy Street was actually a artificial man. Before Yvonne finished speaking, Stussy in front of him had turned into a photo. His well-maintained white and slender right hand was covered with dark domineering aura, and he grabbed Ivan's neck like an iron claw. But the next second... Ugh! Stussy groaned. Not only did she fail to catch Yvonne, but she was grabbed by the blue bone palm extending from Ivan's body. She felt as if her body was about to be crushed. "Don't get excited." Yvonne showed no mercy to the beautiful woman and increased the power of Susanoo, causing the beautiful woman's face to turn red instantly due to congestion. "You don't think you can beat me, do you?" Stussy gritted her teeth. She knew she couldn't beat the boy in front of her. Although he was young, this man had fought off Akainu Sakaski head-on and then evacuated from the G14 base calmly. How could she reach this level of strength? She was just too concerned. If this matter was exposed... "Who are you? How did you know this?" Stussy asked in a low voice. "Quinn? Judge? Caesar? Or Stussy?" The people she mentioned were all members of the MADS Research Institute back then. These were the only ones who knew her identity. "Don't worry about this matter," Yvonne said calmly. "All you need to know is that if you don't want the government to know that you were created by Vegapunk and sent to CP as a spy, then you should listen to my arrangements from now on." Stussy's already plump chest was rising and falling violently at this time, and she was already in a fierce ideological struggle. "What do you want to do?" Then, she finally compromised. The identity of CP was just a disguise as a spy. In her heart, Vegapunk, who created her, was always like a father. If the government really knew about this, she would definitely be destroyed, and the doctor, although still useful to the government, would probably not be able to get a good result in the future. Very good. Ivan simply dispersed Susanoo and put the woman down. Stussy fell to the ground softly, raised her head and looked up at Ivan. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes were trembling, and she looked pitiful. The first question is, Morgan said the government wanted to arrest me, who did they send? After hearing Ivan's question, Stussy gritted her teeth. Morgans, that bastard, swore that he didn't tell the boy anything. You really can't believe a word that bastard said. While she was angry, Stussy didn't hesitate. She had no psychological burden at all about betraying the government. The team was led by Admiral Sengoku himself, accompanied by 2 alternate admirals, Akainu Sakaski and Kizaru Borsellino, as well as a number of vice admirals. Stussy told the truth. General Sengoku. Ivan raised his eyebrows, and there are 2 more generals as backup. There are even a group of lieutenant generals. The Demon Slayer order is just that, right? Is the world government planning to destroy Wanguo as well? Stussy glanced at Ivan carefully, but you don't have to worry too much. The Navy can't confirm how you left Wanguo, so someone needs to provide intelligence from the inside. I am the one who shoulders this responsibility. With my help, it will be easy for you to escape. If this man is caught by the government, then Stussy has no doubt that he will inform the government immediately. Ivan did not answer. He was just thinking. The enemy this time is a genuine admiral of the navy. Admiral Sengoku, who is now at his peak age, definitely has the strength to be worthy of the title of Whitebeard's nemesis. Not to mention that he also brought 2 equally powerful alternate admirals. They are definitely not opponents in a head-on battle. Unless the completed Susanoo is used here, in that case, the navy's strength can be directly suppressed. But that would be a pity. Think about it carefully, what advantages do you have? Ivan pondered. Stussy tried to slow down her breathing to avoid angering the man. She was also a little helpless. Is there anything else to consider? You don't really think you can fight against the Expeditionary Navy, do you? Even with Charlotte Linling, you may not win. After a little thought, Ivan came to a conclusion. There is indeed a huge gap in head-on combat effectiveness. However, he is not without any advantages. Stussy. Ivan looked at the pitiful woman. Teach me the 6 styles. Ah! The beautiful woman was a little confused. Although being studious is a good thing, is now the time to study?